Chapter 1458. Time flew like an arrow. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. During this past half a year, Shao Chun had always been in closed-door cultivation on the lone island, and he never left it at all as he cultivated the rebirth technique. He'd long since forgotten the passage of time, and the disturbances in the outside world were unrelated to him. The situation in the Kunlun continent changed. Ever since the battle between the outstanding talents of the Kunlun realm and the elites of the demonic world in the savage battlefield, the situation in the Kunlun continent had changed. The conflict between the demonic world and the Kunlun realm intensified to the point where even the demon monarch would occasionally make a move. The shadow of the demonic calamity shrouded the entire continent. Under the pressure of the demonic world, the deity Dao Union and the martial god Palace, the two great alliances, were forced to retreat. They reached a temporary truce, no more infighting, and united against the outside world. They had even organized several large-scale battles aimed at the battlefield of the stars. The 18 demon monarchs of the deep abyss demonic world fought an intense battle. Both sides exchanged blows, each had their own victories and defeats, and both sides were wary of each other. They did not use all of their trump cards, all of them waiting for the final decisive battle to decide the victor. However, no matter how one looked at it, the factions of the Kunlun realm were at a disadvantage. This was clear from the fact that the decisive battle would take place in the Kunlun realm and not the deep abyss demonic world. Ever since the 100-race war in ancient times, the pinnacle of martial arts had never returned. The suppressed deep abyss demonic world took this opportunity to rise up. The Kunlun realm could only defend passively. The demonic calamity was forever a sword hanging over the heads of the Kunlun realm cultivators. In the Demon King's palace in the succubus realm of the 18 demon realms of the abyss, Chu Chaoyun and the demon monarch Ling Yu stood side by side, looking at the scenery in the distance. The demon world had no color, no sunlight, and the sky was always dark. In the west, there was a blood-like ball of light hanging on the horizon. Taking a closer look, there was a huge, illusory figure within the ball of light. It gave off a boundless might that enveloped every layer of the demon world. No demon could escape the gaze of that illusory figure. That was the demonic god, the faith of all the people in the demonic world. The Nether Sect's headquarters was also in that huge blood-red ball of light. Chu Chaoyun asked, "How's the refinement of the demon sword going?" "To be able to do as I please, to be able to release and withdraw as I please. It has already become a part of my body," Ling Yu said softly. Her voice contained an enchanting enticement. Chu Chaoyun smiled and said, "Since ancient times, no demon monarch has been able to refine the evil shadow sword so quickly. It looks like the mandate of heaven has chosen you as the master of the demon monarch." Ling Yu was expressionless. She did not look happy at all. Before the demonic god, even the lord of the demon monarchs is the most lowly servant. Soon. Our chance will come soon. After I leave today, I will make a trip to the Sky Dome realm. The Kunlun realm will undergo a huge change soon. Chu Chaoyun stared at the demon god and said such treasonous words. The corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile. He knew very well what kind of thing the devil god was. It was not worthy of respect at all. However, Ling Yu's fear of the demonic god prevented her from saying anything, remaining silent. The Sky Dome realm does not allow Emperor Wu to descend. How are you going to get there? Don't forget, I am someone with the Sky Dome heart. As long as I am willing, I can become the master of the Sky Dome realm at any time, Chu Chaoyun said softly with a smile. Ling Yu still felt somewhat worried. Has the Dark Church's church master really never doubted or suspected you? Chu Chaoyun smiled and said, "You are overthinking. He knew about me from the very start. However, he is very confident in himself. He always thinks that everything is under his control. Aside from him, everyone else in the Sky Dome realm is an ant. I'm going. Be very careful. Don't give yourself away. You still need to wait for an opportunity." Now is not the time to make a comeback. Chu Chaoyun gently drifted away and vanished from where he was, not leaving any trace behind. It was like he had never been there. Ling Yu sighed to herself. She only admired two men in her life. One was Xiao Chen, and the other was naturally Chu Chaoyun. Chu Chaoyun's courage and intelligence were unrivaled among all the people she had met. She had never seen an outsider infiltrate the upper echelon of the Dark Church and deal with the Dark Church's church master until now. When Xiao Chen betrayed Ting Xiao, he did not hesitate to kill decisively. Originally, Xiao Chen was just a pawn for Ting Xiao. Unexpectedly, he turned the tables and killed Ting Xiao, the pawn in charge. Just like that, the evil thoughts of the Qing Emperor were killed. When Xiao Chen revealed his true plan to her, even the demon monarch Ling Yu was startled. That plan was so bold that she did not even dare to think about it. However, not only did Xiao Chen think about it, he even carried it out step by step to where he was today. However, when Ling Yu thought about the battle between Xiao Chen and Xiao Chen at the end of the plan, she frowned heavily. She could not help worrying for Xiao Chen. Can Xiao Chen defeat Chu Chaoyun? At the same time, the heavenly starry ocean was not very calm either. The blood-clad sect, which took advantage of the Golden Age to rise up, had already expanded to the point where it could rival the veteran Immortal Holy Lands. The conflicts between the various Holy Lands and the blood-clad sect turned from hidden to overt. Finally, an intense conflict erupted. The Five Poison sect and the blood-clad sect started a huge battle in the Eastern Sea. Both sides fought for a King Spirit vein, the shockwaves spreading for more than 500,000 kilometers. The result of that battle was the Five Poison sect's defeat, and the blood-clad sect snatched away the King Spirit vein. After this battle, the blood-clad sect became the new holy land of the heavenly starry ocean. Immediately, the blood-clad sect's fame spread far and wide, shaking the surroundings. The number of cultivators who wanted to join the blood-clad sect was as high as the clouds. The blood-clad sect's momentum flourished, showing signs of overtaking the veteran overlords, the Lunar Palace and the Zodiac Hall. Just at this moment, the identity of the blood-clad sect's sect master was purposely exposed. The Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's palace master, Ao Lang, officially stood on the stage and acknowledged his identity as the blood-clad sect's sect master. The fact that he chose to stand out at this moment made others feel a trace of something else. Although there were already some clues that the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace had a close relationship with the blood-clad sect, no one expected that the master behind it was actually the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's Ao Lang. The peace of the heavenly starry ocean was immediately shattered. After acknowledging his identity as the blood-clad sect's sect master, the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's Ao Lang went with the flow. He forcefully subdued all the factions left behind by the Sea King. The Divine Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas came under his control. It was obvious that his plan was meticulous and he had been preparing for this for a long time. Otherwise, they would not have quickly unified the Divine Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas after acknowledging the blood-clad sect's sect master. When the identity of the West Ocean Dragon Palace's palace master was exposed, the neighboring Dragon Gate immediately became embarrassed. Compared to the shock of the other forces, the Dragon sect could be said to be panicking. They had not expected this at all. The West Ocean Dragon Palace, which had declined a long time ago, experienced a shocking reversal. Suddenly, the Dragon's Gate turned into a colossus like an immortal holy land. The nearby Dragon's Gate instantly became dangerous. City Lord Mo Chen decisively chose to seal the city. Aside from Dragon's Gate disciples, no one was allowed to enter Heaven Dragon City. At the same time, Mo Chen started to investigate the spies and all sorts of suspicious people in the city. On the other hand, she sent a message to the Bushan Palace, hoping to get reinforcements. At this delicate moment, the 13 great bandits of the Black Dragon City announced that they would station themselves in Heaven Dragon City. The Dragon's Gate was no longer what it was in the past. However, compared to an evil faction like the Blood-clad sect, there was still a significant gap. Although the Blood-clad sect did not show any signs of attacking the Dragon's Gate, Immortal did not have any hopes of getting lucky. However, Immortal did not have any hopes of getting lucky at all. From the moment the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's Ao Lang stepped out, she started to make all sorts of preparations. Indeed, half a month later, the cultivators of the various branches of the Blood-clad sect headed for the Western Sea and gathered at the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace. After another half a month, the Divine Dragon Palaces of the four seas gathered, and the 7 colored dragon marquises finished organizing themselves. In the Western Sea, the various factions that originally belonged to the Dragon's Gate were attacked. Apart from a few shrewd sects that had already moved their sects away, the rest of the sects had suffered a calamity. Immediately, the news of the Blood-clad sect making a move against the Dragon's Gate spread throughout the heavenly starry ocean, becoming a major event that everyone paid attention to. Many people took this as the first time the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's Palace Master Ao Lang made a sacrifice. Ao Lang wanted to establish his prestige in the Blood-clad sect, trample on the might of the Blue Dragon King, and make the Blood-clad sect a true overlord. Chapter 1459. In a side hall of the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace, the Blood-clad sect's sect master Ao Lang received the palace masters of the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace, the Northern Sea Divine Dragon Palace, and the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace. Since the 4 of them had gathered together, they naturally had something to discuss. It was impossible for them to gather together for no reason. Originally, the East Sea Dragon King was the leader of the Dragon Kings of the 4 seas. The West Sea Dragon King was ranked last. Who knew, 1 month ago, Ao Lang visited the palace masters of the 3 divine dragon palaces. Without exception, the palace masters of the 3 dragon palaces were all defeated by him. Even the strongest person, the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's palace master Prengyang, a 7th Heaven Sovereign Martial Emperor, only lasted 100 moves against Ao Lang. It could be said to be extremely miserable, and he didn't have the strength to resist at all. Prengyang and the other 2 looked at Ao Lang with uncertain expressions. They felt some fear and some anticipation at the same time. This was because Ao Lang had already promised them that as long as they joined the Blood-clad sect, he would tell them the method to suddenly become stronger. Ao Lang, since the 3 of us are already here, there is no need for you to keep us in suspense, the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's palace master, Prengyang, said. Ao Lang smiled faintly and said in a clear voice, "There's no rush. The blood-clad battle armor that I rushed out for you will be delivered soon." Blood cloak battle armor? Prengyang and the other 2 entered deep thought. This should be the scarlet clothes worn by the blood-clad sect cultivators. Could it be that there were different grades of blood robes, and that their blood robes needed to be specially refined? While Zhang Xian was perplexed, 3 pretty maids walked in from the side hall, each carrying a stack of battle armor. "Sect Master, I have finished refining the 3 Heaven Series blood-clad battle armors. Please take a look." Ao Lang smiled as he walked over. Then, he introduced, "This is the blood-clad battle armor that I prepared for you. Its defense is comparable to that of an Emperor-grade secret treasure, indestructible. After wearing it, your body's potential will be stimulated, and your strength will increase by leaps and bounds in a short period of time." Prengyang frowned and said, "Although similar battle armors are rare, they are not non-existent. But the side effects are frighteningly strong. If it's light, you'll become a cripple. If it's heavy, your lifespan will be greatly reduced." Ao Lang nodded and said, "That's right. In this world, there are gains and losses. There had to be a balance. After wearing the Heavenly Series battle armor, one's lifespan would be drained faster. After wearing it, 1 day is equivalent to 4 days for an ordinary person." Prengyang and the other 2 paled upon hearing this. This was equivalent to forcefully having one's lifespan, completely exchanging one's life force for combat power. Ao Lang, you still have something to say, right? Peng Yang said sullenly. Ao Lang laughed loudly and said, Indeed, Big Brother understands me. That's right. However, as long as you have the longevity extending pill that I concoct, your lifespan will be almost the same as an ordinary person's. Of course, I can't give you the refining method of the prolonging longevity pill. As long as they are loyal to the blood-clad sect, I can guarantee that I will give priority to the 3 Big Brothers life-extending pills. The expressions of Peng Yang and the other 2 changed slightly. This meant that their lives were now in Ao Lang's hands. Ao Lang said indifferently, the blood-clad battle armor is divided into 4 grades: Heaven, Earth, Profound, and Yellow. The Heaven series battle armor is very difficult to refine. There are only 10 of them in the entire blood-clad sect. It can increase one's potential by 4 times. Not only will one's cultivation speed increase, but one's comprehension will also increase by 4 times. You can decide for yourselves. I agree. After hesitating for a while, Peng Yang could no longer resist the temptation of having 4 times his potential. He was the first to agree to wear the battle armor. Furthermore, if Peng Yang did not agree, Ao Lang might turn against him. When the other 2 Divine Dragon Palace's palace masters saw the situation, they stopped hesitating and put on the battle armor. Whoosh! The instant the 3 put on the blood-clad battle armor, they immediately felt their strength increase by at least 20%. The joy of having their strength increase was indescribable. Peng Yang and the other 2 Divine Dragon Palace's palace masters immediately rejoiced. Here. These are your longevity-extending pills. 1 bottle for each of you. Don't say that I did not take care of you, old brothers. The Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang's means were very incredible. He knew that he had to win over this group of people in order to continuously expand the blood-clad sect's influence. After the 3 received the bottles, they felt very satisfied. Many thanks, Sect Master, for this reward. Peng Yang knew that his life was in Ao Lang's hands in the future. Since the situation was against him, he had no choice but to lower his head. Many thanks, Sect Master, for this reward. When Ao Lang heard this, he laughed loudly. A sense of satisfaction flowed in his chest. Waving his hand, he said, We are all brothers. There is no need to be so polite. Properly use the potential of the Heaven series battle armor. Half a month later, we will surround and attack the Dragon's Gate. Are we really going to attack the Dragon's Gate? He has the Bushan Palace supporting him. Although the Blue Dragon King is not a threat, the Heaven Dragon City is impregnable. The City Lord, Emochin, is not someone easy to deal with, either. Rumor had it that the blood-clad sect was preparing to surround and attack the Dragon's Gate. It looked like this was true. Ao Lang said coldly, Don't worry. At that time, the Bushan Palace will be overwhelmed. They will not have the time to interfere in this matter. Back then, I swore an oath to thoroughly humiliate Shao Chen. Otherwise, all my years of forbearance would have been wasted. When Ao Lang thought of Shao Chen, the rage in his heart flared up involuntarily. Scenes of the past appeared in his mind. All of them were scenes of humiliation. The most embarrassing one was leading the people of the many holy lands to cause trouble at the Dragon's Gate's establishment. In the end, Shao Chen managed to break the plan. Finally, Ing Zongtian knocked him out with a palm strike. This was an unforgettable humiliation. However, the reputation of the Blue Dragon King, Shao Chen, has fallen long ago. He is just a cripple now, the Southern Sea Dragon King said softly. A cripple? I don't care if he is crippled or not. Unless he kneels and begs for mercy, I will wash the Dragon's Gate in blood. A cold, murderous intent flashed in Ao Lang's words, inspiring fear. The other 3 Dragon Kings did not say anything more, taking their leave. Father, how did the discussion go? Did they agree? After the 3 left, a youth immediately rushed into a side hall. It was the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's young palace master, Ao Feng. It's settled. We will surround and attack the Dragon's Gate half a month from now, Ao Lang said indifferently. The disciples of the divine dragon palaces of the four seas will all wear the blood-clad clothes. Tonight, send news to Heaven Dragon City, and get them to hand over the Blue Dragon King, Shaochen. Otherwise, the blood-clad sect will come out in full force and wash the Dragon's Gate in blood. When Ao Feng heard this, he rejoiced. Back then, the Blue Dragon King, Shaochen, had forced Ao Feng to his knees with one palm strike. Shaochen had already become a heart demon for Ao Feng. After Ao Feng heard that Shaochen failed his tribulation, he had wanted to bring people to capture Shaochen alive several times. However, Ao Lang had stopped him. Now, he was finally going to get what he wanted. How could he not be excited? After Ao Feng made his promise, Ao Feng immediately left, disappearing without a trace. After Ao Feng left, Ao Lang waved his hand to dismiss the maidservants. Then, he took out a messaging token. Whoosh! A small, black figure appeared in the messaging token. This figure was shrouded in fog, looking unfathomable. Greetings, Treasure Master. I have already given the order. We will start attacking the Dragon's Gate half a month from now, the aloof Ao Lang said respectfully to the black figure. That's fine. You helped me obtain the puppet pearl. I already agreed to help you attack the Dragon's Gate. There is no need to report to me. The Treasure Master's voice sounded somewhat sinister, making one feel uncomfortable. Many thanks, Treasure Master. After obtaining the Treasure Master's approval, Ao Lang finally relaxed. He had waited for this day for far too long. Far away, in the underground room where the Treasure Master was in closed-door cultivation, he watched coldly as Ao Lang's figure slowly disappeared. The Treasure Master's lips curled up in a strange smile as he toyed with a pearl in his hand. Good timing. I can use you to test out the Dragon's Gate's strength and stir up the factions of the heavenly starry ocean. That night, the blood-clad sect demanded that the Dragon's Gate hand over Shaochen. Otherwise, news of the blood-clad sect's gate would spread throughout the entire heavenly starry ocean after half a month. Everyone knew that the Dragon's Gate had the support of the Bushan Palace, which Ingzongtian managed. However, the blood-clad sect really dared to make an example out of the Dragon's Gate. What was even more eye-catching was that the blood-clad sect's excuse was to hand over the Blue Dragon King Shaochen. Many people had already forgotten this name. In fact, many of the newly risen outstanding talents had not even heard of it before. 5 years ago, the Blue Dragon King Shaochen jumped off at the final step of his Emperor's Road. After Shaochen returned to Heavenly Star Island, there was no more news of him, vanishing without a trace. If not for Ao Lang purposely mentioning him, no one would have thought of him. This immediately piqued the curiosity of many cultivators. They wanted to know whether the Dragon's Gate would hand over the Blue Dragon King or not. Chapter 1460. Heaven Dragon City, City Lord Hall. The upper echelon of the Dragon's Gate gathered together. Emochen, Yuchensi, Kim Taeho, Lord Jiu, Lan Tianji, Yu Jinlin, Gong Yangyu, Xianyuan Zhantian, and the others all arrived. Many of them were outstanding geniuses who spent most of their time wandering outside, cultivating alone and searching for their own fortuitous encounters in the Golden Age. After receiving Emochen's message and learning that the Dragon's Gate was in trouble, he did not hesitate to rush back. None of these people had low cultivation bases. In this Golden Age, they were like fish in water, all of them able to stand on their own. The weakest among them was a greater heavenly Emperor Wu. The ones with the most horrifying cultivations were Xianyuan Zhantian, Yu Chensi, and Gong Yangyu, who no one expected. Like Shaochen, these three came from the Sky Dome realm. Now they were as strong as sovereign martial emperors. Among them, Xianyuan Zhantian was the strongest. Even Yu Chensi and Gong Yangyu did not know what his true limits were. Back then, Shaochen had said that Xianyuan Zhantian walked an extremely difficult path. He only cultivated the state of kingship. Later on, he had a fortuitous encounter and obtained a body cultivation technique left behind from the peak of ancient martial arts. By combining his king's will with his physical body, he had formed the king battle body with limitless potential. Of all the people present, he was the last to advance to martial emperor. The path to martial emperor was fraught with death, and he had nearly died at the last step. But in the end, he had managed to pull through. Right now, his sharpness was restrained. Even though he was already standing at the furthest corner of the palace, that terrifying king's intent still made everyone feel pressured. Jean Lin, who was also from the Haotian sect like Xiao Chen, asked, "Miss Mo, why did you suddenly gather everyone here? Did something happen?" Mo Chen and Lan Tianji each took a seat in the middle. Lan Tianji answered, "Let me say it. Last night, the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's young palace master, Ao Feng, personally sent word, asking us to hand over Xiao Chen. Otherwise, the blood-clad sect will come out in full force half a month later and wash the Dragon's Gate in blood." "Humph! Your tone is really arrogant. Not to mention that big brother Xiao Chen is not in the Dragon's Gate. The Dragon's Gate is not the Dragon's Gate. Even if they are, we will not hand them over to them. We, the people of the Dragon's Gate, are not people that anyone can bully." Jean Lin heavily slammed the table, causing a loud bang to ring out. He was extremely angry. That little bastard. Back then, Xiao Chen was soft-hearted and took his life. Now that you've made a comeback, you've immediately climbed all over me. You're really arrogant. Kim Tae-ho cursed angrily. He hated himself for not destroying the West Sea Divine Dragon Palace when the Dragon's Gate was at its peak, leaving behind such a threat. Emochin said, "Saying all this is already useless. I called everyone here just to discuss it with everyone. Now that the blood-clad sect is very powerful, I have thought about it. Everyone here is Big Brother Zhao's good friend. There is no need for everyone to risk their lives to defend the city. We can hide for now and head to the Kunlun continent. When Big Brother Xiao Chen returns, we can think of countermeasures. Only with the green hills can the green water flow." Mo Chen's words were very sincere. She believed that Xiao Chen was here. She did not want to see this group of brothers put themselves in danger. After all, the blood-clad sect was too strong. The Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang, the current blood-clad sect master, was unreasonably strong. "There's no need. Miss Mo, since we chose to return, we already made our decision. As people of the Dragon's Gate, how can we just sit and watch the Dragon's Gate get bullied?" Xianyuan Zhantian, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. He said calmly, "Even if we cannot defeat them, we have to do our best." "That's right. Brother Zhantian is right. This Heaven Dragon City is the culmination of Big Brother Xiao Chen's efforts. Similarly, it is also the culmination of Miss Mo Chen's efforts. If we leave, Miss Mo Chen will definitely not leave, right?" Gong Yangyu smiled faintly, expressing his opinion in a cool and elegant manner. It was not easy to establish the Dragon's Gate. Think about how much pressure Big Brother Xiao Chen endured on the day the Dragon's Gate was established. How can people like us shrink back because of some pressure? Miss Mo Chen, please allow us to work with you to resist the blood-clad sect. As Yu Chenxi spoke, he looked like the morning sun, his face radiating a determined light. "Let's go together. No one should leave first. If we are leaving, we should all leave together. Miss Mo Chen, don't harbor any thoughts of living and dying with the Dragon's Gate. If you die in battle, Big Brother Xiao Chen will definitely be very sad." Lan Yu opened her eyes wide, looking somewhat pitifully at Mo Chen. As Mo Chen looked at the people in the hall who had stood up, she saw the sincere smiles on their faces. Mo Chen's eyes turned somewhat moist. She felt indescribably moved in her heart. Earlier, she had been somewhat selfish. Gong Yangyu was right. Mo Chen had indeed intended to let everyone leave and defend the city alone. However, when she heard the words of the people here, she suddenly felt that she had been somewhat selfish. The Dragon's Gate belonged to Big Brother Xiao-Chun, Emo-Chin, and everyone else here. Sorry, Emo-Chin was somewhat selfish earlier. Everyone, do not leave. Live and die together, advance and retreat together. All of us have to live well. None of us are allowed to die. Emo-Chen's voice sounded somewhat choked. As she smiled, tears fell down her face involuntarily. Live and die together, advance and retreat together. At this moment, Lan Tianji also stood up and stretched his hand to the center. Immediately, everyone placed their hands on his. All the Dragon's Gate elders showed smiles on their faces as they promised to go through thick and thin together, advance and retreat together. Their smiles contained carefreeness, determination, courage, and faith in the Dragon's Gate. This is the Dragon's Gate treasure armor that I personally refined, a replica of the Blue Dragon Holy Armor. It is a complete set of Emperor-grade secret treasures. Although it cannot compare to the Ascension armor that the Qing Emperor wore back then, it is at least half as effective. Since everyone had decided to stay, Emo-Chin did not say anything else. She took out the 10 sets of Dragon's Gate treasure armor that she refined using the power of the Dragon's Gate. Xianyuan Zhantian's eyes lit up with joy. He immediately dripped his blood on it and bound it to him, refining one set. With a thought, the various parts gave off an azure light and automatically attached themselves to every part of his body. Ka. After a while, the extraordinarily handsome Xianyuan Zhantian, wearing the Dragon's Gate treasure armor, changed drastically. The azure battle armor had true dragon patterns carved on it. The air of kingship merged with the tyrannical aura of a true dragon. It was like the king of tens of thousands of true dragons, unique and unparalleled. It really fits. Miss Emo-Chin, you are really nimble. Many thanks. Xianyuan Zhantian revealed a satisfied smile as he performed a cupped fist salute with the heavenly war halberd in his hand. When everyone saw the extraordinarily mighty Xianyuan Zhantian, they all eagerly put on the Dragon's Gate treasure armor. As of now, no one in the entire Kunlun realm could surpass Emo-Chin in terms of refining Dao. She already stood at the peak. Furthermore, she had surpassed the second-ranked person by several mountains. Everyone was extremely satisfied with their battle armor, feeling exceptionally happy. Wearing the Dragon's Gate treasure armor, you spun around in front of Lan Xiaobai. Her heroic air immediately turned lively and cute. Elder brother Xiaobai, hee. I look good in this treasure armor, right? Lan Xiaobai smiled and nodded. Then, he praised you, making her unable to contain her joy. A blush appeared on her snow-white cheek. Of the 10 sets of Dragon's Gate treasure armor, there was a set of snow-white treasure armor with a red cloak. It was exceptionally eye-catching. Kim Taeho smiled and said, "This set of treasure armor is unique. It looks very handsome and white like winter snow. It suits this fat lord's pure and handsome air very well. However, it seems to be a little skinnier. It does not match this fat lord's figure." Emo-Chen's smile faded slightly. She sighed softly. This is for Big Brother Xiao-Chen. The moment Emo-Chen said that, everyone felt somewhat disappointed. If only Xiao-Chen were here. He would be like you and share the same hatred. I believe that Xiao-Chen will rush back and put on this battle armor. Then, he will lead us to kill our way out of the blood-clad sect. Xianyuan Zhantian stood proudly. His handsome face exuded a sense of fortitude. Imperceptibly, it infected everyone present. I also believe that Big Brother Xiao-Chen will definitely return. He has never disappointed us before. Even if we unfortunately die in battle, he will put on this white-clad battle armor and take revenge for all of us. Half a month from now, as the elders of the Dragon's Gate, we absolutely cannot let down the Dragon's Gate's might and let the people of the heavenly starry ocean laugh at us. We absolutely cannot let the Dragon's Gate that Big Brother Xiao-Chen established under the pressure of everyone in the world be destroyed. Live and die together, advance and retreat together. Chapter 1461. With one glance, it looked like a thick scarlet cloud had landed on the sea. Wu Yun vomited a mouthful of blood and went flying back. A bloody hole appeared in his chest, and blood spurted out. How arrogant! Let's go as well. Footsteps resounded as a Dragon's Gate disciple rushed in and said, City Lord, the blood-clad sex people are here. They have already surrounded the entire Heaven Dragon City. The 3 Dragon Kings, the 7 colored Dragon Marquises, and the blood-clad sex Vice-Sect Master are all gathered at the Eastern City gates. An insignificant junior dares to fight with me? Right after Gong Yangyu spoke, blood leaked out of Wu Yun's mouth due to his carelessness. Then, he got knocked down by the staff strike. Ha! What a good excuse! Who does not know? Xiao Chen jumped off his emperor's road and suffered the rebound of his great tribulation of wind and fire. Now, he is a cripple and is hiding in Heaven Dragon City. Wu Yun's arm went numb, and the force of the staff spread out. Half his body turned somewhat stiff. When the metal staff stopped spinning, Gong Yangyu swung it down. 10,000 bolts of lightning shot out from the thunderclouds. Gong Yangyu's figure quickly vanished. When he reappeared, Gong Yangyu had already disappeared. When he reappeared, he arrived at the Eastern City gate. Right after Mo Chen spoke, she soared into the air, standing on the Book of Heavenly Works. Then, she tore through the sky like a burning meteor. Several people were stunned when they saw this, feeling envious of Xiao Chen. Dong! 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 Fight! Young master, there is no need to waste words with them. I will go and capture this woman personally and interrogate her. Then, we will know the result. City Lord Mo, you finally came out. I thought that you were like Xiao Chen, a coward, Ao Feng said with a smile, his words arrogant and confident of victory. Unexpectedly, it would be so difficult. I'll go and meet him. Go to the Eastern City Gate. Miss Mo, are the 13 great bandits of the Black Sea and the Bushan Palace not coming? Jean Lin asked somewhat worriedly. Ao Feng revealed a cold smile as he turned his head to look at his father, who was seated on the throne. Father, this Dragon's Gate does not know how to appreciate favors. There is no need for us to be polite to them. Above the city gate, the guards' expressions were solemn. Looking at the red clouds in the sky, their expressions were calm. Ao Lang wore the scarlet battle armor, and his eyes flickered with a strange red light. He gave off a frightening aura, appearing dignified and mysterious. Among the densely packed warships, there were 11 main warships. The 7 colored marquises each took one, the 4 great dragon kings each took one, and the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang's warship was the flagship. Roger. The previously solemn Dragon's Gate elders in the hall all stood up without hesitation. Since they had agreed to rush back, these people had no intention of deserting, no matter who the enemy was. She remembered that big brother Xiao Chen had left with a smile. If he left with a smile, he should return with a smile. Without any hesitation, Mo Chen suddenly stood up. She only had one thought in her heart. They absolutely could not let the Dragon's Gate that Xiao Chen had established be destroyed in the hands of this group of people. Of course, these people were not here to help. They only wanted to use this battle to figure out the blood-clad sect's strength. They only had their current accomplishments thanks to Xiao Chen and Mo Chen's help. They had gone through many trials and tribulations with the Dragon's Gate. They were loyal to the Dragon's Gate, willing to go through fire and water at any time. Then, the hundreds of Dragon's Gate's warships hovering above the city lord's residence soared into the air. They flew quickly towards the city gates like arrows, appearing incredibly decisive. As for the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's young palace master, no, it should be the blood-clad sect's young master Ao Feng, who had been waiting for this day for a long time. He felt impatient. Several of these people had vicious thoughts. They hoped for an internecine outcome. Bang! Gong Yangyu decided to beat them up when they were down. He brandished his staff with one hand, and the black metal staff spun like a hurricane. They can't come. We can only rely on ourselves, Chen replied softly with a grave expression. A person beside Chen soared into the air. Then, he flew towards the eastern part of the city at lightning speed, heading for Chen. Immediately, the messenger on the flagship took out a messaging talisman and passed on Ao Lang's orders. Seeing that Chen really stood up on the tall wall, Ao Feng's eyes lit up, and he revealed a deep smile. City Lord, the blood-clad sect's young master, Ao Feng, wants to see you. The Dragon's Gate cultivators had already gathered on the Dragon's Gate's warship in the courtyard outside the residence. The Dragon's Gate's warships were filled with disciples willing to sacrifice themselves for the Dragon's Gate at any time. These were all natives of Heavenly Star Island. It was truly airtight and impenetrable. Although the city gates were not broken, there was a formation protecting it, and these people could not break in. However, a large patch of blood clouds gave people a lot of psychological pressure. Wu Yun laughed maniacally. Instead of dodging, he threw out a punch. He was already a cripple, but there was still such a peerless beauty who was willing to stay by his side and guard the Dragon's Gate. Half a month was but the blink of an eye for a martial artist. According to the plan, the battleships soared into the sky and floated like a blood cloud. The battleships quickly flew towards Heavenly Star Island. Every battleship was filled with red-clad cultivators. Commander Dong Cheng walked over quickly and performed a cupped fist salute. Even further away, the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang did not ascend the island. He stood guard far behind, appearing very confident. When this punch landed on the metal staff, it gave off a loud, dull sound. It was like a sudden clap of thunder, causing everyone's eardrums to buzz. Behind, the 3 Dragon Kings and the 7 colored Dragon Marquises each led a team. Killing chi filled their faces as they looked coldly at the people on the city walls. Rumble! As the metal staff spun, it gave off the sound of boundless wind and thunder, causing thunderclouds to cover the sky. In the city lord's residence, Chen, Lan Tianqi, and the other Dragon's Gate doyens readied themselves for battle. Young master, the Dragon's Gate's people have not replied yet. They are not willing to hand over Xiao Qin, an envoy on the flagship reported as he knelt on the deck. Right now, the Blue Dragon King was no longer the Blue Dragon King from 5 years ago, who was like the sun in the sky. The people of the various Holy Lands all chose to watch from the sidelines. In the distant sky, many cultivators and the people of the Holy Lands paid close attention to the blood-clad sect's every move. After advancing to Martial Emperor, Chen had already removed her veil. She was once the top beauty of the Cloud Sea domain. Now, she looked very graceful and noble, even more so than before. So, it turns out that your peak 6th Heaven Martial Emperor cultivation relied on external items to advance. You are merely SOSO. As for the Bushan Palace's side, the demons suddenly attacked. The Bushan Palace and the deity Dao Union worked together to fight the other party in the starry heavens. This person wore the Earth-ranked scarlet battle armor. His name was Wu Yun, one of the blood-clad sect's core elders. He was a 6th Heaven Martial Emperor. Pass down my orders. The 3 Dragon Kings and the 7 colored Dragon Marquises are to ascend the island and surround the city. Wash the Dragon's Gate in blood. Originally, the blood-clad sect hoped that these 2 factions could help at the crucial moment. Who could have imagined that the Black Sea would suddenly turn chaotic? The 13 great bandits stationed in the city had no choice but to return to defend. Otherwise, their home might be destroyed. Chen stepped forward and arrived at the edge of the city walls. Then, she looked down. She happened to see Ao Feng, who was riding on a handsome horse and being escorted by a group of people. When Xiao Qin came out of the palace hall and looked up at the sky, he saw red clouds surrounding Heaven Dragon City, forming a ring. The others used various means to move much faster than the Dragon's Gate's warship. It was hard to believe that this was just a simple coincidence. After integrating the factions that the Sea Monarch left behind, the blood-clad sect's strength reached an unprecedented level, reaching its peak. Aside from the slightly weaker accumulations, the blood-clad sect could already rival the Immortal Holy Lands, perhaps even surpassing them. The blood-clad sect's might was vast, and its aura flourished. Imochen replied calmly in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "Young Master Ao, I already said that Big Brother Shao is not in Heaven Dragon City. Even if he is, the Dragon's Gate's people will not let Big Brother Shao Chen fall into danger." Ao Feng's expression changed slightly. He said softly, "It's him, Gong Yangyu, the strongest person of the heavenly starry ocean with the staff." Ao Feng smiled coldly as he spoke in a sinister tone. Whoosh! Many scarlet warships anchored outside Heavenly Star Island's sea region. All of these warships had the blood-clad sect's war banner. On the city wall, Gong Yangyu pushed off with his feet and swung his heavy black metal staff down at this person. She did not want to see a tattered dragon's gate when Shao Chen returned. Chapter 1462. Gong Yangyu's victory in the first battle was beautiful and inspiring. However, in reality, the Dragon's Gate situation had not changed at all. Wu Yun was merely one of the core elders of the blood-clad sect. Above the core elders were the 8 enforcers and the vice-sect master, Kan Minghua. Furthermore, there were the 3 dragon kings, the 7 colored dragon marquises, and the unfathomable Western Sea Dragon King. The strength of the blood-clad sect far surpassed that of the Dragon's Gate. 1 or 2 one-on-one battles would not be enough to salvage the situation. At the same time, on the isolated island overseas, Shao Chen's cultivation of the cycle arts had reached its most critical juncture. 7 different states of light appeared around Shao Chen. They looked like colorful diamonds floating around him. The various states spun continuously. As the states spun, all sorts of mysterious phenomena materialized on the isolated island. Mountains and rivers shattered, and the flames of war burned. Many wounded soldiers lay on the battlefield, their bodies riddled with arrows. The 2 armies faced each other, and the killing continued. Everyone's eyes turned red from the killing. The so-called history was continuously evolving amid the killing. This was the mysterious phenomenon materialized by the state of massacre. After a while, the scene changed. Many cities were destroyed amid the killing. Civilization was trampled, and mountains and rivers were flattened. This was the illusion materialized by the state of destruction. This was the destruction brought by the killing. The scene changed again. Someone cried in pain in the rubble. Flocks of vultures flew in the scarlet sky. The withered flowers in the sky were filled with grief. Countless people looked up to the sky and let out silent wails. Those were faces of despair. After the despair, countless people died. The entire world fell silent. The scene was only black and white. The silence that death brought swept through the mountains and rivers. When one looked around, everything withered. There were no signs of human habitation. The world turned back into a piece of white paper. After many years, a trace of color suddenly appeared in the dark world. It was a small, green blade of grass struggling out of a crack in the rubble. The instant it appeared, the entire world changed color. One needed to kill to live. Killing would eventually bring destruction until the entire world died. Then, one would gain new life. Reincarnation did not end. Life did not end. The illusion disappeared, and the 7 colorful diamonds turned into a rainbow light that entered Shao Chen's sea of consciousness. In Shao Chen's vast sea of consciousness, aside from the innate thunder crystal and the will of ice, there was also a reincarnation heart that merged 7 states. Shao Chen opened his eyes, and the 7-colored light that had filled the sky for more than half a year disappeared. As he looked at the world, he felt a sense of enlightenment. The originally desolate island was no longer lonely in front of his eyes. The ant nests buried deep in the ground, the grass in the cracks of the rock. Everything was full of vitality. He could even see further into the future, 10 years, 100 years. The desolate island became verdant and lush with dense forests. Samsara has finally reached this step. Shao Chen fell into deep thought. Before he fused the state of cycle, he would never be able to experience the wonders of the state of cycle. With a flick of his finger, a saber light shot out from Xiao Chen's fingertip and landed on a mountain rock a kilometer away. The saber light contained the state of cycle that Xiao Chen just comprehended. The mountain rock struck by the saber light suffered the attacks of the seven states. Finally, it turned into yellow dirt and merged into the ground. There were no earth-shattering explosions, nor were there any dazzling and colorful anomalies. There was only simplicity and simplicity. Xiao Chen felt very satisfied. Although he still did not know how to use the state of cycle, the effect before him already explained it. The state of cycle simplified Xiao Chen's primordial energy, bringing it to a whole new level. Xiao Chen's primordial energy had always been much weaker than Emperor Wu's primordial energy. The reason was simple: he had not undergone his tribulation yet. However, this state of cycle made up for this. As long as the state of cycle fused with primordial energy, Xiao Chen would be able to use it. As long as he merged the state of cycle with his primordial energy would not be weaker than a sovereign martial emperor's. Xiao Chen thought about his 1,000 strands of primordial energy. This was 100 more strands than the ninth heaven's Emperor Wu. With the state of cycle, Xiao Chen's cultivation was already no weaker than that of a ninth heaven martial emperor. More accurately, he was even stronger than that. Only peak ninth heaven martial emperors, the Holy Land's masters who were only a step away from prime, could contend with him. Interesting. However, the state of cycle should not be so simple. If the reincarnation concept only had this effect, then it would be a little disappointing. Xiao Chen might as well try to see what would happen after exhausting the state of cycle with all his might. The cycle arts were incomplete. After teaching one to cultivate the state of cycle, there was no more content. Xiao Chen could only rely on himself to figure it out. Otherwise, there would be no need to put in so much effort. Whoosh! The cycle heart spun quickly in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness. Beams of multicolored light instantly filled the sea of consciousness. Following that, the energy from the state of cycle charged out of the sea of consciousness's limits and flowed throughout Xiao Chen's body. His limbs, bones, and internal organs were all filled with explosive energy at this moment. However, he could not move. His body was clearly filled with energy. However, the instant Xiao Chen raised his leg, he felt like he was fighting against the entire world. There was a boundless resistance. How can it be like this? Questions filled Xiao Chen's mind. He could not understand no matter how he thought about it. Could it be that he could not use the state of cycle in this abandoned land? If that was the case, then all his efforts over the past half a year would have been for naught. Xiao Chen's eyes turned scarlet. He had placed such a huge bet on the state of cycle. His 10-odd years in the Kunlun realm could be said to have been for the sake of this goal. In the end, this result was a little too great of a blow. Xiao Chen could not accept this. "I will never give up!" Xiao Chen roared ferociously. At this moment, 1,000 strands of primordial energy poured into his body. Whoosh! His body seemed to have broken through a thick layer of invisible barrier. The moment he broke through the barrier, he felt a chill run down his spine. The instant he broke through the barrier, that resistance no longer existed, and he charged forward. Holding pride, Xiao Chen stabbed it into the ground and unleashed all the energy in his body. With a loud bang, the entire island exploded in an instant and turned into nothingness. Rocks filled the sky and turned into countless specks of dust that shot out in all directions. A huge hole appeared on the surface of the sea, forming a huge whirlpool that sucked in the seawater for 5,000 kilometers around like a deep abyss. Whoosh! Something strange happened. Xiao Chen, who had just seen the island crumble and the deep abyss form, suddenly discovered that the scene before him had changed. Suddenly, Xiao Chen discovered that the scene in front of him had changed. He held his saber and stood on a lone island. Xiao Chen felt indescribably fatigued. he wished that he could immediately fall to the ground and sleep. He was simply too tired. How can it be like this? I clearly remember what happened earlier. I clearly shattered the island under me with one saber strike. Why is the island I see still intact? Could it be that I saw wrong? Was what I experienced just an illusion? However, Xiao Chen's primordial energy was drained, and his cycle heart was dim. His body and mind were fatigued. How could this be fake? Boom! Just as Xiao Chen thought this, the scene before him changed again. The island under him was no longer there. Xiao Chen was not careful, and he fell into the huge whirlpool of the sea. The whirlpool was like a bottomless abyss. Clearly, it was caused by his earlier saber strike. Fish dragon art, divine dragon tail whip. Xiao Chen shouted. Then, he moved like a berserk dragon, moving in a huge arc. He struggled free from the strong suction of the whirlpool and somersaulted into the air, landing on the sea. As Xiao Chen looked at the pitch-black whirlpool, his thoughts slowly calmed down. Then, he calmly pondered. That earlier scene was too strange. Reversing space-time. After Xiao Chen calmed down, he carefully considered the various possibilities. Finally, these words appeared in his mind. Reversing space-time, going back and forth between the present and the future. The state of cycle temporarily broke the restraints of time. Chapter 1463. As Xiao Chen lay on the throne in exhaustion, he still thought about the scene from earlier. He finally understood why it felt like he was facing the entire world when he circulated the state of cycle. It was very difficult to take a step forward. This was because Xiao Chen reversed time and space. With one step, he arrived in the future. When he stabbed the saber into the ground, the sea exploded, and a whirlpool appeared. Then, he returned to the moment he drew his saber. If that was the case, it would explain why the island didn't explode when he looked back. Because of the reversal of time and space, Xiao Chen saw the future. The energy of his saber also appeared in the future. When the future was set, the result could not be changed. After that, Xiao Chen did not do anything, and the island still exploded, exactly the same as what he saw in the future. This seems somewhat complicated to explain. Simply put, after Xiao Chen unleashed the full power of the state of cycle, he could travel to the future to attack the enemy. From start to finish, there was a total of 3 seconds. Excluding the time he returned to the present and the moment he drew his saber. The time he truly attacked in the future was only 1 second, perhaps even less than 1 second. However, this 1 second was sufficient to determine the outcome of the battle. Unless the opponent was like Xiao Chen, who had scratched the surface of the state of time, no one would be able to block this saber strike. Just think about it. How would one block a saber strike from the future? The state of cycle is indeed indescribably wondrous. It truly lives up to being above the great Tao. No matter how Xiao Chen looked at it, the cycle Tao was stronger than the ice Tao, the thunder Tao, and even the saber Tao that Xiao Chen was most proficient in. However, this cycle Tao had obvious flaws to Xiao Chen. Firstly, this was just the beginning. Xiao Chen did not know how to cultivate it in the future. Secondly, he did not have the feeling that the saber Tao and the thunder Tao felt like they were his own arms. It was too difficult to execute them, and it was not natural enough to do so. Finally, the exhaustion was too great. It was like facing the obstruction of the entire world. Traveling back and forth between the future and the present, aside from the huge exhaustion, Xiao Chen felt like his physical body was finding it hard to endure. However, everything was difficult at the beginning. On the bright side, this was just the beginning, and Xiao Chen was already so strong. If he reached small perfection, how strong would he be? This was simply unimaginable. Just then, Xiao Chen suddenly felt the message token in his universe ring ring ring. The message token was very expensive to make. It was something that only sovereign martial emperors could afford to use. Xiao Chen had only given his message token to Jiang Tian. Over the past few days, He had felt that Jiang Tian wanted to contact him. Unfortunately, he was at a crucial point in his cultivation of the reincarnation art. Xiao Chen didn't want to interrupt. He was afraid that if he stopped, he would have to spend another half a year to comprehend it. Now that he had finished cultivating the reincarnation art, Xiao Chen did not hesitate to take out the communication token. Xiao. A miniature image of Jiang Tian appeared on the token. Xiao Chen was in a good mood. He smiled and asked, "Is there news of the treasure master?" "Hee hee, you can still laugh. This old man truly admires you." Jiang Tian had a strange expression as he sneered. Xiao Chen sensed that something was amiss. His face darkened as he said, "Speak your mind. I wanted to look for you half a month ago. The blood-clad sect wants to attack the Heaven Dragon City and capture the Blue Dragon King alive. 3 days ago, I wanted to tell you that the Dragon's Gate is in danger. Your group of good friends will not be able to stop them. If you rush over, you can still make it in time." Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. An overwhelming killing intent surged out of his body uncontrollably. After the Dragon's Gate was established, it kept a low profile and did not compete with others. It was just a gathering point for his group of good friends to fulfill his wish of re-establishing the Dragon's Gate. He didn't have the ambition to dominate, nor did he think of invading any faction. To him, Mo Chen, and the others, he didn't have any ambitions. To Xiao Chen, Mo Chen, and the others, the Dragon's Gate was like a big family that connected all his friends. "What about now?" Jiang Tian remained silent for a while before saying, "Half a day ago, the city gates were broken. The Dragon's Gate's doyens moved out and even killed a few blood-clad sect elders. However, the blood-clad sect master personally made a move, Ka-ca." Before the Geomaster Jiang Tian finished speaking, the message token floating in front of him directly shattered, turning into powder. This little fellow. Why is he still unable to calm down at such a mental state? Jiang Tian sighed softly as he shook his head on the other end of the message token. Xiao Chen's mental state was pretty good, even better than that of most sovereign martial emperors. He could control his greed and murderous heart very well. However, a dragon had a reverse scale. Touching it would enrage him. The Dragon's Gate, his brothers, and his close friends were Xiao Chen's reverse scale. No one was allowed to touch it. A good mental state did not mean that Xiao Chen had no temper or lost his sharpness. Rage blazed in Xiao Chen's heart. He simply could not control it, nor did he want to. Before such a matter, he could not remain calm, unable to remain as immovable as a mountain. Originally, Xiao Chen planned to consume the universe origin Dao fruit after he comprehended the state of cycle. Now, it looked like he could only set this aside for now. Xiao Chen took out the primordial pills that he rarely used. Without hesitation, he took out 10 and consumed them. Now, he directly used the primordial pills that he used to cultivate primordial energy to recover his primordial energy. These were treasures that others would find hard to obtain, but Xiao Chen casually used them without even blinking. 1 hour later, with the help of the 10 precious primordial pills, Xiao Chen completely recovered his primordial energy. His mental and physical strength had all recovered to their peak. Whoosh! Xiao Chen raised his foot and heavily pushed off the water. Then, he soared into the air like a berserk dragon, roaring ferociously. Rumble! The water that Xiao Chen stepped on shattered like glass, creating a huge pit. Just like that, Xiao Chen used his full power to rush over this boundless sea in the direction of Heavenly Star Island. Xiao Chen moved like a berserk dragon, moving 10 kilometers with each step. After he left a huge pit in the deep sea, displaying the rage in Xiao Chen's heart. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Chen traveled more than 50 kilometers. However, this place was too far from Heavenly Star Island. Even if Xiao Chen's speed reached the limits of the Kunlun realm, he would not be able to reach Heavenly Star Island within a short time. 2 days later, a strange piece of news started spreading in the Heavenly Starry Ocean. Some people said that they saw a true dragon appear and flash before their eyes. When these people recovered their wits, they discovered that the true dragon had already vanished. The berserk aura inspired fear in everyone who saw it. Naturally, the main character of the legend was Shao Chun. He had no distractions, only one belief. Faster! 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 Get to Heavenly Star Island! With the support of this belief, Shao Chun raised his speed to its limit. When everyone who saw it, they all thought that it was a dragon image flashing by. By relying on this extreme speed, Shao Chun miraculously arrived at the sea region where Heavenly Star Island was 3 days later. When Shao Chun passed the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace, he felt that the atmosphere of the island was somewhat strange. However, Shao Chun, who only had one thought, did not stop. After he overtook the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace, he anxiously rushed to Heavenly Star Island. The Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace was not close to Heavenly Star Island. However, compared to Shao Chun's starting point, it was much closer. After another half a day, Shao Chun finally set foot on Heavenly Star Island. The silhouette of Heaven Dragon City appeared in Shao Chun's vision. After he landed, he finally stopped frantically. Feeling somewhat nervous, Shao Chun slowly walked to Heaven Dragon City. From a distance, he saw smoke rising from the city. The largest city gate, the East Gate, was already completely destroyed. Only a pile of bricks and tiles remained. There was no sign of the past. When Shao Chun stepped on the rubble of the city gate and looked around, the entire Dragon City no longer existed. After all the buildings were destroyed, they were set ablaze. Heaven Dragon City, which could rival Bright Moon City in the past, was now a pile of dilapidated rubble, filled with holes and thick smoke. In some places, the flames had not even extinguished yet, continuing to burn. Shao Chun could see some natives in the rubble, looking for the corpses of their friends and relatives in sorrow. These were the disciples who died for the Dragon's Gate. The corpses were buried, and no one cared about them. How could it be like this? Shao Chun muttered to himself, feeling grief in his heart as he stood there in a daze. Chapter 1464. Not a single place in the vast Heaven Dragon City remained unscathed. The entire Dragon's Gate was destroyed. Shao Chun blamed himself. Why was he not here at the Dragon's Gate's most crucial moment? The stench of blood in the air had yet to scatter. One could smell it with a gentle sniff. Shao Chun did not want to smell it because he did not know how much of the Dragon's Gate's disciples' blood was in there. When he looked around, he saw the family members of several Dragon's Gate disciples in the rubble, doing their best to stay alive. Some of the disciples were still breathing, while others had been dead for a long time. Shao Chun hated himself for not being able to reverse the situation, for not having the ability to reverse life and death. He hated himself for not being there, for not being able to prevent the tragedy from happening. He hated the blood-clad sect for attacking the innocent Dragon's Gate's disciples. Suddenly, Shao Chun somewhat understood what it meant to be in extreme pain, to not have the heart to feel pain. Then, Shao Chun formed hand seals with both hands and spread out his Taiji saber domain. Within 1 kilometer, the collapsed walls, stone pillars, and roofs all floated up within the saber domain. With a thought, all the huge rocks instantly turned into powder and disappeared with the wind. The Dragon's Gate disciples buried in the huge rocks revealed themselves. Shao Chun tapped his forehead with a finger, and the life essence that merged with the heart of an emperor turned into motes of stars drifting out of his body. The motes of light containing Shao Chun's life essence looked incredibly beautiful. As long as the Dragon's Gate disciples still had a breath left on the ground, their injuries healed at a visible pace. As long as they did not die, Shao Chun pulled them out of the gates of hell. As long as they did not die, Shao Chun pulled them out of the gates of hell. Just like that, he closed his eyes and slowly walked through the huge city. Everywhere he passed, the collapsed rocks floated in the air and instantly turned into powder, scattering with the wind. Everywhere he passed, Shao Chun cleared out large patches of rubble. The life essence that he scattered was even more effective than the best holy medicine for treating injuries. The many Dragon's Gate disciples miraculously came back to life. Elder Brother White Robes, what are you doing? This is life essence. Little 3, the item spirit in the 3-life mirror, was startled silly by Xiao Chen's scene. In just a short while, the life essence that Xiao Chen scattered had already used up 100 years of his lifespan. Of the 1,000 strands of primordial energy, 100 strands had already vanished from the life essence that contained his cultivation. Don't be afraid. I have a lifespan of 2,000 years. Dissipating 1,000 years won't be fatal. Even if my cultivation base regresses, I can still cultivate it back. Saving people is more important. Xiao Chen's face was slightly pale. He responded calmly and continued walking. With such an understatement, he had managed to explain his shocking actions. Little 3 was speechless for a long time after hearing this, not knowing how to continue. Life essence, cultivation base, those were the foundation of a martial artist's life. No one would be willing to part with this. This was a martial artist's most precious asset. On the ruins, the people who were still alive were all stunned by this scene. After a while, Xiao Chen walked around the entire city and cleaned up all the ruins. In the vast Heaven Dragon City, apart from some of the main buildings, there were no more ruins. The people on the ground stood up one after another. When they saw their recovered wounds, they felt somewhat confused. However, when they saw the masked, black-clad, and cold Xiao Chen, no one dared to go up and ask him anything. Nothing. The corpses of Mo Qin, Lan Tianji, Xianyuan Zhantian, and the other Dragon's Gate elders were nowhere to be seen. Xiao Chen had already used up 1,000 years of his lifespan, leaving him with only 700 strands of primordial energy. Now, his tense heart relaxed slightly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Sonic booms rang out behind him. Someone rushed over. When Xiao Chen turned around, he recognized this person. This person was the vice commander of Heaven Dragon City, Yuan Bing. He was a third Heaven Emperor Wu. Normally, he was responsible for maintaining order in the city and guarding the city lord's residence. May I ask who you are? Why are you willing to use your life essence to save us Dragon's Gate disciples? Yuan Bing looked at Xiao Chen and drummed up his courage before speaking boldly. For some reason, when facing this mysterious masked person, there seemed to be an invisible force field. Even though the other party had not done anything, Yuan Bing felt like he was much weaker than the other party. There was an inexplicable pressure that made him feel nervous. It's City Lord Mo's good friend. I received her request for help and came too late. Since he could not expose his identity now, Xiao Chen decided to ask about what happened in Heaven Dragon City. So, it is City Lord Mo's good friend. Sorry for the disrespect. Mo Chen's prestige in Heavenly Dragon City was very high, and she was able to become her friend. For someone to be her friend, Mo Chen was at least on the same level as her. However, it was still hard to explain why the other party was willing to use his life essence to save them. There were many suspicious points, some of which Xiao Chen could not figure out. Where is the city lord? Xiao Chen asked. When Yuan Bing heard Xiao Chen's question, his expression turned somewhat grave. He replied in a low voice, he was captured. The blood-clad sect came out in full force. The city lord and the Dragon's Gate elders fought to the death, but they still could not block the other party's attack. The blood-clad sect's sect master personally made a move and injured the city lord. After the city gates were broken, the blood-clad sect's army charged in. The other party had too many people. We were simply not a match for them. The city lord and the Dragon's Gate elders related to the Blue Dragon King were all captured. Xiao Chen felt a pang in his heart. He endured his grief and continued asking, where were they taken? It should be the Western Dragon City, where the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace is. I'm not sure where exactly. I fainted and just woke up. Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. The Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace? How did you get involved with them? Yuan Bing explained for a while, telling Xiao Chen the reason. Then, he said that the Western Sea Dragon King was the blood-clad sect's mysterious sect master. It's him. Xiao Chen's killing qi surged uncontrollably. Yuan Bing felt extreme pressure, feeling like he had fallen into an ice cave. No wonder. I was wondering why the blood-clad sect would attack the Dragon's Gate for no reason. If the blood-clad sect's sect master was the Western Sea Dragon King, then everything could be explained. Sir, don't be rash. The Western Sea Dragon King's strength is now unfathomable. If a supreme being doesn't come out, I'm afraid there are very few who can defeat him. More importantly, the blood-clad sect has many experts in the first place. Furthermore, it has consolidated the faction that the Sea Sovereign left behind. Now, it is already as strong as an immortal Holy Land. If you charge in rashly, it will be no different from sending yourself to death. Yuan Bing resisted the pressure and advised with some difficulty. He did not want the city lord's mysterious friend to be in danger. Without personally experiencing that great battle, one would not know how horrifying the blood-clad sect was. Without seeing the Western Sea Dragon King make a move, one would not know how strong he was. Xiao Chen calmed down. Indeed, even if he still had 1,000 strands of primordial energy, he would not be able to kill his way into a holy land. Even if he grasped the state of cycle and the divine lightning eye, he would not be able to charge into a holy land. Not only would he not be able to save his friend, but he might even lose his life. It was not that Xiao Chen underestimated himself. It was just that his individual strength was indeed insignificant when facing a faction that rivaled a holy land. Xiao Chen was confident that he could charge in and out, escaping unscathed. However, that would be pointless. If he could not save Mo Chen's group, it would be pointless. Instead, he might even harm them. After asking around, Xiao Chen understood why the Bushan Palace and the 13 great bandits of the Black Sea did not come to provide reinforcements. Ingzongtian led the Bushan Palace's people and the deity Dao Union to fight the demons in the starry heavens. He could not afford to be distracted. Suddenly, there was internal strife in the Dark Sea. The 13 great bandits could not even take care of themselves. Goodbye. Xiao Chen glanced at the Dragon's Gate and instructed Yuan Bing to take care of these Dragon's Gate disciples. Then, he left alone. The urgent matter at hand was to obtain the latest news about Mo Chen and the others before making a response. Xiao Chen, who was raging, had already calmed down. His rage had not been extinguished, only slowly accumulating and accumulating. Chapter 1465. With some anticipation, Xiao Chen opened his palm and refined the universe origin Dao fruit into a golden liquid filled with spiritual energy. Then, he swallowed it in one gulp. However, this Xiao Chen is really something. Why did he not appear? If he had appeared, the Dragon's Gate would not have been destroyed so miserably. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and muttered, and the great Dao energy behind him turned into a faint halo of light. Under a towering tree in the courtyard, Xiao Chen sat on a stone platform. Then, he took out the universe origin Dao fruit that he had not had a chance to consume. Xiao Chen was here to scout out news of Mo Chen and the Dragon's Gate elders. The factions that the blood-clad sect destroyed and the cultivators that came to the Western Sea all chose this place as their final resting place. The blood-clad sect is so powerful that even the Bright Moon Empress has to assess the situation. However, logically speaking, the Lunar Palace should not fear the blood-clad sect. There might be some hidden reasons. As Xiao Chen muttered the words Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace, he silently left Heavenly Star Island. Then, he casually arrived at an island in the Western Sea. Late at night, the moon hung high in the sky like a silver plate. After entering the largest tavern in the city, Xiao Chen found a desolate corner and called out a waiter. Then, he ordered a flask of wine and casually drank. This was Xiao Chen letting him choose which Dao to seek: the Thunder Dao, the Ice Dao, or the Saber Dao. Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace. The towering tree behind Shao Qin looked like a fairy, drifting and dancing. After sending a message to Jiang Tian, Shao Qin rented a courtyard in the city. There was even a rumor that after consuming and refining this fruit, one could increase one's cultivation by 1,000 years, directly becoming a prime. Ka-Xie. All sorts of wondrous thoughts filled Shao Qin's mind, making his eyes light up and clear. This was indescribably wondrous. All the bladesmen felt horrified and flustered. With a thought, the saber energy in Shao Qin's sea of consciousness shone brightly, overwhelming the light of the will of ice and the innate thunder crystal in his sea of consciousness. However, now, Shao Qin hoped that the legend was true. As long as Shao Qin consumed the universe origin fruit, he would be able to become a prime. In that case, he would not have to fear the blood-clad sect. Shao Qin held the cup and drained it in one gulp, not saying a word. There was no need to pay attention to the celestial music. It was like the music of the great Tao resounding in one's ears, as if one was listening to the supreme great Tao. However, this was unprecedented. Due to a fortuitous encounter, Shao Qin managed to comprehend a complete saber Tao before the age of 100. How did he get out? From the moment he jumped off the Emperor's Road, the Blue Dragon King no longer existed. If you come out, won't you be humiliated to death? Do you think you're still Shao Qin or the Shao Qin of the past? Shao Qin didn't quite believe it. The island did not attach itself to the Dragon's Gate or the blood-clad sect. As its location was not good and there were not many resources on the island, the blood-clad sect did not make a move on this island. Taverns were Shao Qin's target. Taverns in any city. All sorts of people would gather there, good and bad people mingling together. The people drinking and chatting there would definitely talk about the recent storm at the Dragon's Gate. Shao Qin was clearly no longer Emperor Wu, but he was still within the realm of Emperor Wu. Prime was a realm filled with contradictions and pain. Yu Bingyun truly lives up to the title of Holy Daughter. She is indeed loyal and loyal. Back then, for the sake of asking the Lunar Palace to help, I heard that she knelt before the Bright Moon Empress for 7 days and 7 nights. However, for some reason, the Bright Moon Empress did not agree. The Tao. The reason was not hard to explain. It was none other than neutrality. I heard that the Holy Daughter sent out a hero invitation today, inviting all the heroes of the heavenly starry ocean to head to Western Dragon City to save her. Hence, Shao Qin could only settle for the next best thing, finding another place. Half a month. Shao Qin only had half a month. From now on, he could not stop for even a moment. Such a change caught Shao Qin off guard. He had consumed many natural treasures before. However, none of them could trigger such a mysterious phenomenon. I heard that the blood-clad sect already said that if the Blue Dragon King does not come out within half a month, they will start killing people openly in Western Dragon City. Then, they will start killing people openly in Western Dragon City. They will kill one person every other day until Shao Qin appears. Who knows? In any case, the Lunar Palace did not make a move. Yu Bingyun has no choice but to use her influence to send out a hero invitation alone. I wonder what the effect will be? The originally slightly messy celestial music changed its tune and became a simple piece of music. Shao Qin's body became like a musical instrument, giving off immortal music that could not be heard in the mundane world. This music contained the sound of the great Tao. The saber energy in his sea of consciousness increased continuously. Compared to when Shao Qin cultivated on his own, this speed was more than 100 times faster. 100 spots of saber energy gathered in his sea of consciousness and formed a complete great Tao. Recently, the number of people coming and going to Starry Universe City on the island had increased significantly. As Shao Qin expected, most of the topics in the tavern were related to the destruction of the Dragon's Gate. After paying for the wine, Shao Qin turned to leave. Just at this moment, another piece of news entered his ears. When Shao Qin heard this, he was slightly stunned. After pausing for a while, he shook his head and left. The Tao. This was a Tao fruit that even immortals chased during the immortal epoch. It was a priceless treasure. Xiao Chen's mind was clear. It was like a wide door had opened to his understanding of the Saber Tao. What's going on? TSK. What kind of person is he? He still doesn't know that this is just an excuse? One mountain cannot hold two tigers. Even without Xiao Chen, the blood-clad sect would have made a move against the Dragon's Gate. If you want to blame someone, blame the Dragon's Gate for being too magnanimous back then, not eliminating the root of the problem earlier. The entire courtyard instantly came to life. Amid this ethereal, immortal music, spiritual energy filled the air, dancing to the music. Aside from the cycle heart, the will of ice, the innate thunder crystal, and the saber energy in his sea of consciousness stirred, feeling incredibly excited amid this immortal music. This island was called Starry Sky Island. It was not very famous in the Western Sea. However, it was one of the few islands that chose to remain neutral. Unfortunately, the cycle Tao seemed to be too strong. Even the universe origin Tao fruit could not shake it. 3 days. After 3 days, Xiao Chen finally finished absorbing the universe origin Tao fruit. All sorts of discussions could be heard in the hall. Amidst the lively atmosphere, there was an additional layer of noise. This was how taverns worked. If one preferred peace and quiet, they could only choose a teahouse. After a while, the spiritual liquid from the Tao fruit permeated Xiao Chen's internal organs, limbs, and bones. Xiao Chen already knew how the Dragon's Gate was destroyed. He perked up his ears and listened carefully. He only heard news about Emochen and the others. Now that the blood-clad sect was very powerful, there were many factions that relied on it. Most of the entire Western Sea was under the blood-clad sect's control. It was very difficult to find a peaceful place. It was as the cultivator in the tavern said. The blood-clad sect was openly plotting to force Xiao Chen to show himself. This method was shameless. However, it had to be said that it was very effective. How ruthless! The blood-clad sect is really willing to use any means necessary to force Xiao Chen to show himself. To think that they could even do such a shameless thing. Xiao Chen suddenly startled awake. As he guessed, the universe origin Tao fruit was the fruit of Tao verification. In a situation where he could not verify the cycle Tao of the 3 great Tao, Xiao Chen naturally chose the Saber Tao without hesitation. Naturally, the best place to obtain information was a specialized intelligence organization. As long as one had money, one could obtain any information. However, there was also the risk of exposing one's identity. When the universe origin Tao fruit turned into spiritual liquid and entered Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness, it was like clear water. The spiritual liquid from the universe origin Tao fruit in his body turned into musical notes and entered his sea of consciousness. The will of the Saber Tao greedily absorbed these great Tao musical notes, slowly strengthening itself. A strange feeling appeared in Xiao Chen's body before he could react. Suddenly, a multicolored light shot out of Xiao Chen's body, and immortal qi spread out. Just like that, Xiao Chen comprehended the Saber Great Tao that the item spirit of the Saber Sovereign Token, Qing Yun, spoke of. Pan Huang comprehended the Saber Great Tao when he was 100 years old. Xiao Chen was only 35 this year. Based on the lifespan of the Kunlun realm, he was a bona fide junior. Being a prime was not a simple increase in cultivation. It was a kind of breakthrough. They had already broken through the limits of the 9th heaven Emperor Wu. However, due to the heavenly Tao laws of this abandoned land, they could not find a way to advance further. Chapter 1466. Tao. In the courtyard, Xiao Chen muttered, and the great Tao halo behind him disappeared. The ring of light of the great Tao behind him suddenly shrank and condensed into a point before rising continuously. When it reached 10 meters, it stopped. Pu Ci. An even stronger aura of the Saber Tao swept through the entire city, including all the bladesmen. They felt their qi and blood surge. Unable to endure it, they vomited a mouthful of blood. The other cultivators all felt a strange pressure as well. They all circulated their energies and did their best to resist. It was just a casual action. However, when the great Tao appeared, the vast pressure firmly suppressed the entire starry universe city. Even Emperor Wu could not avoid it. Xiao Chen finally understood what kind of existence the great Tao energy that the item spirit Qing Yun mentioned was. One had to obtain the Tao before they could comprehend it. The cultivation of great Tao energy had just begun. With a thought, the light formed by the great Tao energy returned to Xiao Chen's body. The pressure on the entire starry universe city immediately lessened significantly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just as Xiao Chen was preparing to enter the Saber Sovereign Medallion and ask Qing Yun for advice on how to cultivate great Tao energy, 3 figures landed on the courtyard wall. The 3 figures landed on the wall of the courtyard. They looked around and fixed their gazes on Xiao Chen. They revealed suspicious expressions in their eyes. Of the 3 old men, the one in the middle had the highest cultivation, an 8th heaven Emperor Wu. The 2 on the left had slightly lower cultivations, but they were also 6th heaven Emperor Wu. However, the auras of these 2 were somewhat ferocious. This was especially so for the one on the left. He was tall and stout, showing a ferocious expression. This old man is Xiao Heng, Starry Universe City's City Lord. Might I ask if the earlier fluctuation was caused by you? Xiao Heng was somewhat suspicious. The earlier fluctuation was startlingly large. However, this person before him was only a 6th heaven martial emperor, which did not seem to be the case. Big brother, who cares about him? This fellow is very strange. Let's kill him first. Greed flashed in the eyes of the tall old man on the left. Seeing that Xiao Chen's cultivation was not high, he harbored evil intentions. He wanted to kill Xiao Chen and snatch the treasures on him. Right after the tall old man spoke, he leaped down and threw a palm strike. He stretched out his hand and struck out with his palm. Flames revolved around his palm, and a strong wind howled behind him. He cultivated 2 wills, the will of wind and fire. The combination of wind and fire was extremely violent. The main building, trees, and other buildings in the courtyard were all burned to ashes under the pressure of the wind and fire. Looking at the silent Xiao Chen in the courtyard, Xiao Heng suddenly felt that something was wrong. He shouted, "Third brother, stop!" Too late. With a thought, the energy of the Saber Tao spread throughout Xiao Chen's body. Then, he sent a palm strike at the tall old man. The strong aura of wind and fire ceased before the might of the Saber Tao. The old man felt an unbearable pressure on his entire body. Before Xiao Chen could react, the 2 palms already clashed. The Saber Tao energy in his body that contained primordial energy surged out. The force was too strong. Xiao Chen did not control it well. The power of the Saber Tao flowed out along with this palm strike. Countless holes appeared on the tall old man's body. Each hole had a sharp saber light, looking as piercing as the sun. In the next moment, the old man's body shattered into pieces, and his heart of an emperor shattered. "You!" The old city lord and the other person were frightened silly. Xiao Chen killed their 3rd brother with 1 palm strike. What kind of strength was this? Even the 9th heaven Emperor Wu was not that strong. Xiao Chen entered deep thought. His control of great Tao energy is still too weak. Such a 6th heaven Emperor Wu would only need 1/10 of his great Tao energy to deal with him easily. However, Xiao Chen unleashed all his great Tao energy with 1 palm strike. I have to quickly ask Qing Yun for advice on how to control and cultivate great Tao energy. After glancing at the old city lord and the other person, Xiao Chen left without saying a word. The 2 old men felt like they were relieved of a heavy burden. A chill ran down their backs, and they broke out in a cold sweat. What terrifying strength! Big brother, his cultivation is clearly not high. How could he kill 3rd brother with a single palm strike? Xiao Heng replied with lingering fear, "There is only one explanation. His comprehension of the Saber Tao is already close to a legendary realm. Legend? The second city lord was stunned when he heard the words. Obviously he could not understand it. Did he see the legend with his own eyes? After leaving Starry Universe City, Shao Chun arrived at the edge of the island. After he took out the Cycle War Chariot, he directly entered the Saber Sovereign Medallion. Congratulations, Master. You have successfully grasped a complete Tao. Qin Yun knew everything that happened outside like the back of her hand. When she saw Shao Chun enter, she smiled softly. At the same time, she felt incredibly shocked. Back then, Pan Huang only comprehended a great Tao at the age of 100. The Shao Chun before him was only 35 years old, yet he had comprehended a complete Saber Tao. Could it be that this youth's future accomplishments would be greater than Pan Huang's? Even though he had grasped a complete great Tao because of the primordial Tao fruit, he was still able to do so. However, fortuitous encounters were a part of one's strength in the first place. Back then, Pan Huang's fortuitous encounters were no less than Shao Chun's. Shao Chun did not know what the other party was thinking. After he saw Qin Yun, he said directly, "Tell me how to cultivate and use great Tao energy." Qin Yun recovered her wits. When she saw that Shao Chun's mood was not quite right, she consoled him. The cultivation of great Tao energy requires patience. Don't be too hasty. Be careful, the Tao will scatter, and you will have to cultivate again. I'll teach you how to use great Tao energy first. When Shao Chun heard that, he was startled. He had indeed been too hasty and could easily cause trouble. Qin Yun's reminder was very timely. All right, go on. The cultivation of the Tao is divided into 5 stages. From lowest to highest, they are: first glimpse of the Tao, small perfection, heart of the great Tao, Tao domain, and boundless Tao. Qin Yun continued, first glimpse of the Tao and small perfection are these 2 stages. To you, the Tao is just a skill. You will feel that with the support of the great Tao, the might of your martial techniques will multiply. However, without comprehending the heart of the great Tao, you will always feel that the Tao is like a mudfish. It is clearly in your hands, but you just cannot firmly grasp it. Shao Chun entered deep thought. Then, he asked, in that case, how should one cultivate the Tao? The Tao cannot be cultivated. Don't interpret the Tao as cultivation. It is a kind of comprehension. You have to comprehend it. As your horizons, cultivation, and comprehension ability increase, your comprehension of the Tao will naturally increase as well. Qin Yun smiled and explained, go to the comprehension platform. Pan Huang's comprehensions are there. Go and carefully look at them. You should be able to gain some comprehension on how he used great Tao energy in battle. Many thanks. Shao Chun felt that his understanding of the Tao had become much clearer. After thanking Qin Yun, he climbed up to the comprehension platform. 3 days from now, regardless of whether I gain anything or not, you must wake me up, Shao Chun instructed Qin Yun as he closed his eyes and cultivated. Qin Yun nodded and said, all right. I will forcefully wake you up 7 days from now. Shao Chun's figure flashed, and he climbed up to the comprehension platform and sat down cross-legged. Immediately, an illusion appeared. The Bodhi tree, the Buddhist sect's holy tree, was above Shao Chun, and white Bodhi flowers floated around him. The instant Shao Chun closed his eyes, he instantly forgot about the troubles of the world, entering a state where he forgot about himself and the world. Great Tao energy did not need to be moved, silently unfolding behind him. As the Bodhi flowers floated in the air, that Tao disk flickered with a faint spiritual light, looking like it was breathing. Brat, watch carefully. This is the situation of me fighting with various experts when I am at the initial stage of comprehending the Tao. Watch carefully. How much you can comprehend will depend on your ability. Various scenes appeared in Shao Chun's mind. The owner of these scenes was the first-generation Saber Sovereign, Pan Huang. Pan Huang was fighting with others. During that peak era of the martial Tao, He held up a saber and fought against various outstanding talent. Shao Chen watched carefully, not daring to relax for even a moment. Every time he finished watching a battle, he felt like he gained a lot, completely immersed in it. After 7 days, Shao Chen, who was in the cycle war chariot, suddenly startled awake. Qing Yuan had forcefully woken him up and kicked out the saber sovereign medallion. How fast! Shao Chen felt that 7 days passed too quickly. There were still many things that he had yet to comprehend in detail. However, he had to come out of closed-door cultivation. Today was the day he and Jiang Tian agreed to meet. Whoosh! The war chariot turned into a throne. Then, Shao Chen looked up and saw a figure quickly drifting over from the distance. After a while, Jiang Tian appeared in front of the cycle throne. As he looked at Shao Chen, the smile on his face froze. Unexpectedly, he felt some pressure before Shao Chen. "Shao Chen, why did you call me here?" Jiang Tian asked after calming himself. "You should have made some progress in your investigation of the treasure master in the past half a year. I only have one request. Help me delay the treasure master 5 days from now. Don't let him rush to the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's aid," Shao Chen said seriously. Others did not know that the blood-clad sect had the treasure master supporting them. However, Shao Chen was very clear on this. With the treasure master making a move, unless Shao Chen was a prime, he would not be able to save the blood-clad sect even if he used all his means. Instead, he would end up getting himself killed. Jiang Tian smiled bitterly and said, "Your request, can it be done?" Shao Chen believed that Jiang Tian had the ability and means to do so. The key was whether Jiang Tian was willing or not. "Very well, I agree. However, you have to agree to this old man's request. After this, you owe me a request as well," Jiang Tian said with a grave expression as light flickered in his eyes. Deal. Chapter 1467. There were only 5 days left until the half-month deadline that the blood-clad sect announced. However, the Blue Dragon King, Shao Chen, still had not appeared. Immediately, all sorts of rumors about Shao Chen spread. Some said that Shao Chen was already dead, so naturally, he could not appear. Some said that Shao Chen was already crippled and was now just an ordinary person. If he went, he would just be seeking death. For the past 5 years, everyone had already forgotten about Shao Chen's existence. In this golden age, outstanding talents appeared every day. Who would remember an outstanding talent that was already past his prime? However, due to the Dragon's Gate's commotion half a month ago and the blood-clad sect's announcement, the public opinion of the entire heavenly starry ocean immediately pushed Shao Chen to the heart of the storm. This outstanding talent that no one paid attention to became the focus of every cultivator's discussion. There were even some nosy people who started betting on whether Shao Chen would appear or not. The number of people betting surpassed everyone's expectations. On that day, the largest casino in the heavenly starry ocean, the Rosy Cloud Mountain Manor, officially took over. They set up professional bets on whether Shao Chen would appear, whether he would be able to rescue the Dragon's Gate's senior elder, and whether he would be able to retreat unscathed. There were only 5 days left, but there was still no news of Shao Chen. There were no traces of Shao Chen at all. The news that he would not appear spread like wildfire. The odds of betting on Shao Chen's appearance immediately soared, reaching a shocking 1 to 100. However, even with such horrifying odds, few people placed their bets. They did not believe that Shao Chen would appear. As for those who bet that Shao Chen would be able to rescue the Dragon's Gate's senior elder, they were even rarer. It would not be an exaggeration to say that they were as rare as phoenix feathers or Qilin horns. No one expected that the Blue Dragon King, who was already past his prime, could cause such a commotion after 5 years. There was no news of Shao Chen at all. However, there was another gathering that was related to him that caught everyone's attention. The former Lunar Palace's holy daughter sent out invitations, calling all the outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean to gather and rescue the Dragon's Gate's senior elder. Over the past half a month, many outstanding talents showed up with invitations. The Zodiac Hall's Holy Sun Chuyang, the Myriad Fiend Islands Di Shinhan, the Inyang Paradise's In Susu, and the Northern Sea Alliance's young master Yi Chen. Even Dugu Ao, who was far away in the Human Demon Sea, rushed over in the last few days. Every name on this long list was a well-known outstanding talent of the heavenly starry ocean. This clearly showed the influence of the Holy Daughter. Even though she was no longer at the Lunar Palace, she still commanded respect. When talking about the Holy Daughter Yu Bingyun, her character and emotions were widely praised. Being affectionate and righteous was the best evaluation of her. Some sharp-witted people noticed that many of the people on this long list had immortal holy lands behind them, or a power second only to a holy land. This triggered some deeper guesses. Could it be that these holy lands did not dare to officially fall out with the blood-clad sect, and could only use this method to silently express their stance? Of course, it was also possible that he was overthinking things. 5 days later, in the Western Sea, the blood-clad sect's headquarters, Western Dragon City, everyone's attention was focused on the place. The streets and alleys of the city were packed with people. All of them were cultivators from all over the heavenly starry ocean. There were famous outstanding talents and cultivators who were just here to watch the excitement. Of course, there was only one reason for so many cultivators rushing to Western Dragon City. This was because today was the day the blood-clad sect decided to kill the Dragon's Gate's elders. All the Dragon's Gate's elders were locked up in Fresh Blood Plaza. Rumor had it that at that time, the blood-clad sect's young master, Ao Feng, would draw lots to decide who to start with. After that, they would publicly kill a Dragon's Gate's elder every day until Shao Chen appeared. If he did not appear, they would kill him until there was no one left. The cruelty of the blood-clad sect's methods was rarely seen since ancient times. The arrogance of the blood-clad sect's actions was also rarely seen in recent years. After this matter was over, a newly risen faction dared to be so ostentatious. Aside from forcing Shao Chen to appear, the blood-clad sect also had the intention of establishing its might. After this matter was over, even if Shao Chen did not appear, the blood-clad sect's position in the heavenly starry ocean would be stable. This could be said to be killing two birds with one stone, killing two birds with one stone. The sinister plan was extraordinary. In the tallest pagoda in Western Dragon City, the blood-clad sect's sect master, Ao Lang, looked down on everyone. The aura of an ambitious and ruthless person on him was becoming more and more obvious. Can Minghua, who was standing behind him, felt a great deal of pressure. With his back facing Can Minghua, Ao Lang stood upright with his hands behind his back. He said indifferently, "Is there still no news of Shao Chen?" "No, this guy seems to have really disappeared. There's no trace of him at all. It can't be that he's really dead, right? If that's the case, it seems a bit unnecessary for us to make such a big fuss," Can Minghua said carefully. Ao Lang's lips curled up in an unfathomable smile. Unnecessary? It was no longer important whether he appeared or not. His appearance was a pleasant surprise. If he doesn't appear, then I've more or less achieved my goal. After today, the blood-clad sect will truly be established in the heavenly starry ocean. Only then will I have the qualifications to stand on equal footing with the many holy lord. Can Minghua performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Congratulations, sect master. You have fulfilled your wish. The day you unify the heavenly starry ocean is just around the corner." When Ao Lang heard this, he rejoiced in his heart. He could not help smiling and saying, "Who said that this is a golden age only for the outstanding talents? Everyone has the opportunity to carve out their own empire in this age of geniuses." Sect Master, there's one more thing. After Yu Bingyun's group entered the city, they split up. Ao Lang smiled in disdain and said, "They are just a bunch of dancing clowns. What age are we in? To think that they are still thinking of heroism and letting their emotions affect their decisions. They think that no one will notice them. How can there be a chance for them to hide in my blood-clad sect? Sect Master is wise. We have been monitoring these people closely. It would be fine if they did not show themselves. However, once they do, we will definitely teach them a lesson, Kan Minghua said softly with a smile. Ao Lang nodded in satisfaction. There's no need for you to personally monitor this matter. You are overestimating them. Go and manage Fresh Blood Plaza. I have a feeling that Xiao Chen will still appear. Yes. As Ao Lang stood upright with his hands clasped behind his back and looked down at the entire city, he felt a heroic spirit that made everyone else seem like ants. Xiao Chen, I said before that one day, I will make you kneel and beg me. I absolutely meant it. Thinking back to the humiliation of the past, Ao Lang clenched his right fist. A strong murderous intent flared in his eyes, and a strange red light appeared in them. Due to this terrifying killing chi, strong winds blew in the sky above, adding a hint of desolation and coldness to the atmosphere. Fresh Blood Square used to be the West Dragon Square. However, after the West Ocean Dragon Palace changed its name, the West Ocean Dragon Palace became the West Ocean Dragon Palace. However, after the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace changed its name, the decorations in the plaza changed to a piercing scarlet color. Naturally, the name of the plaza changed as well. The Dragon's Gate's doyens had their cultivations restricted at the tall platform in the center. Chains bound their bodies as they knelt on the platform. Emo Chen, Xianyuan Zhantian, Lan Tianji, and the other people of the Dragon's Gate's upper echelon who had a deep relationship with Xiao Chen were all present. Everyone's clothes were still intact, but their complexions were somewhat pale. As they knelt on the ground, they appeared to be in sorry state. How miserable! Half a month ago, they were all the Dragon's Gate's upper echelon. Unexpectedly, half a month later, they are all prisoners. Why is Xiao Chen not showing himself yet? Seeing so many of his companions suffer, does he not blame himself at all? So what if he comes out? Now, he is just a cripple. Is he here to send himself to death? That's true. I believe that this group of fellow sect members do not want him to show himself. Seeing the Dragon's Gate's doyens on the tall platform, the people below the platform discussed. Emo Chen looked for something in the crowd. When she did not discover Xiao Chen's figure, she heaved a sigh of relief. While the defenses around the plaza looked lax, the blood-clad sect's experts were actually all hidden. If Xiao Chen really came, he would have fallen for the blood-clad sect's trap. The young master Ao Feng sat on a chair in the back, playing with a die in his hand. This die would decide who would be the first Dragon's Gate's doyens to be killed today. Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen, listen up. I have not touched a single one of these Dragon's Gate's doyens. As long as you immediately appear before me, I can immediately release all the Dragon's Gate's doyens. Ao Feng lazily reclined on the chair and drove his primordial energy, spreading his voice to every corner of the city. His arrogant voice contained a trace of frivolity as it reverberated throughout the entire city. Clearly, Ao Feng did not hold out much hope that Xiao Chen would really appear. If Xiao Chen really appeared, he would have come long ago. There would be no need to wait until now. Ao Feng's behavior was truly asking for a beating. Unfortunately, this was the blood-clad sect's territory, so he could only endure his anger. Ao Feng yawned in boredom. Then, he toyed with the die. When the drifting sound grew softer and softer, he prepared to continue speaking. As you wish. Suddenly, a cold voice rang out in the blood-clad plaza. Compared to Ao Feng's arrogant voice, this voice was much weaker in aura. However, it was these 4 simple and clean words that caused the clamor in the city to come to an abrupt halt. Everyone held their breath, feeling their hearts thumping loudly. For some reason, they felt nervous. An entire city had stopped breathing for him. Clang! Ao Feng showed a startled expression. The lazy smile on his face vanished, and he stood up abruptly. Then, He threw his chair down heavily and looked around, searching for the owner of that voice. But the instant Ao Feng stood up, the sky above him suddenly darkened. Before Ao Feng could react, a huge foot trampled on him. His bones shattered, and he turned into a pile of mush. Chapter 1468. Naturally, the owner of the gargantuan foot was Shao Chen. Before the sun rose that day, he had been hiding above Fresh Blood Plaza. With Shao Chen's strength, when he withdrew his aura, even a prime would not be able to see through him. There was no need to use Dermic World to deal with a minor character like Ao Feng. However, Shao Chen felt angry in his heart. He had been suppressing his rage for a long time already. When it finally erupted, he could no longer hold it in. The tall platform in the plaza instantly shattered, and all the Dragon's Gate elders soared into the air. Shao Chen, who stomped Ao Feng into meat paste, quickly recovered his figure. Wearing a mask, he sat on the throne hovering in the air. Shadowless Saber Sovereign. Many people present were very familiar with this image. This was the Shadowless Saber Sovereign who had risen to fame in recent years. This was the Shadowless Saber Sovereign who suppressed the deity Dao Union and the 18 demon royal halls. He was the most mysterious and unfathomable character of the Golden Age. He had risen too quickly, and there were too many mysteries and too many legends about him. Be it the newly advanced Saber Sovereign, suppressing the righteous and evil factions in the savage battlefield, or the widely known phrase of not touching a saber or leaving a shadow behind, there were many mysteries about the Shadowless Saber Sovereign's identity. He had long since become one of the greatest mysteries of the Kunlun realm. Such a character was destined to be a legend in this golden age of the Kunlun realm. However, today, the Shadowless Saber Sovereign suddenly appeared in Fresh Blood Plaza and even executed the signature martial technique of the Blue Dragon King. Could it be? There was an answer in everyone's heart. Shao Chen somersaulted in the air and returned the throne to his battle robes. A saber light flashed in his hand, and the chains on the Dragon's Gate's people in the air broke. The Dragon's Gate's people regained their freedom. Then, they moved and landed firmly on the rubble of the plaza. Shao Chen landed and stood in front of the crowd. Then, he swept his gaze across the Dragon's Gate's gate elders before fixing it on Imochen. Fortunately, they were all here, not a single one missing. Casually removing his mask, Shao Chen said, "Sorry for making you all suffer. I could not protect everyone. Shao Chen let you all down." Delicate appearance, handsome facial features, and fluttering long hair. Who else could it be but Shao Chen? Outside the square, everyone who witnessed this scene was stunned. The famous Shadowless Saber Sovereign, whose identity was a mystery, was actually the Blue Dragon King Shao Chen, who was deemed to be a cripple. How is this possible? Chu Yang, the holy son of Zodiac Hall, who was hiding in the crowd and was prepared to rescue the people from the dragon sect, was dumbfounded by this scene. He had personally seen the Shadowless Saber Sovereign's strength in the savage battlefield and knew how horrifying the other party was. He looked at Shao Chen and casually took off his mask, revealing his true face. An indescribable bitterness appeared in his heart. Originally, he thought that he was already the leader of this sea region. He never expected that he would still be firmly suppressed by that person. After 5 years, not only did the Blue Dragon King Shao Chen not disappear, but he also changed his identity and made a name for himself. At this moment, Shao Chen was not the only one feeling disappointed. The outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean that Yu Bingyun gathered all felt a heavy pressure. Cripple? Who still dared to say that the Blue Dragon King was already crippled, that the Shadowless Saber Sovereign was Shao Chen, and that the Blue Dragon King was the Shadowless Saber Sovereign? The mystery was solved. However, the identity of the Shadowless Saber Sovereign was somewhat hard to accept. Many people felt conflicted in their hearts. Unexpectedly, the Shadowless Saber Sovereign is actually Shao Chen. In less than a day, this news will spread throughout the entire Kunlun realm. The Blue Dragon King is indeed the Blue Dragon King. In the end, the Golden Age still belongs to him. There was no need to say too much. In any case, the cultivators who came here definitely would not regret coming today. Not only did they see Shao Qin, but they also saw the shadowless Saber Sovereign taking off his mask. The blood-clad sex people were also completely stunned. This was not the result they wanted. They had been waiting for Shao Qin to show up. However, when Shao Qin truly appeared, they were all stunned. Even when their young master was trampled into meat paste, he did not stand up for the injustice and make a move against Shao Qin. The reason was none other than Shao Qin being the shadowless Saber Sovereign, a legendary character that even the Holy Lord could not do anything to. Big brother Shao Qin. Emo Qin cried tears of joy, not knowing what to say. She sobbed softly, "Sorry, the Dragon's Gate is destroyed." Xianyuan Zhantian said calmly, "Shao Qin, leave quickly. The strength of this blood-clad sect master is unfathomable. By coming here, you really fell for their trap." "Indeed. Big brother Shao Qin, leave quickly. They lured you out on purpose." The Dragon's Gate's people startled awake from their joy and tried to persuade Shao Qin to leave. "Leave? Where do you think you are going? Today, regardless of whether you are the shadowless Saber Sovereign or the Blue Dragon King Shao Qin, you will die here." At the crucial moment, Can Minghua led the 8 law enforcers of the blood-clad sect, the 3 Dragon Kings, and many blood-clad sect experts to surround Shao Qin and the Dragon's Gate's people. Clang! The blood-clad sect drew their weapons, and a cold, killing chi pointed at Shao Qin. "Everyone, scatter. The blood-clad sect is handling matters. Anyone in the way will die." Suddenly, countless scarlet-clad cultivators appeared in the surroundings, chasing away all the cultivators watching the excitement in the plaza. Instantly, Fresh Blood Plaza became densely packed with the blood-clad sect's elite cultivators. Several warships even flew over in the sky, sealing off all the routes. Up in the tower, after the initial shock, Ao Lang revealed a cold smile. "You are seeking your own death. Even if you are the shadowless Saber Sovereign, this Fresh Blood Plaza will be your burial ground today." Dong! 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 The tens of thousands of blood-clad sect elites walked in orderly steps, pressing in step by step and closing in on the encirclement. His footsteps were like thunder, mixed with his killing intent, rumbling continuously, shaking people's hearts. Immediately, the cultivators chased to the periphery were all frightened by this scarlet sea. The ear-splitting footsteps caused several cultivators to bleed from their 7 facial orifices. Oh no! Even if the Holy Lord arrives, he will not be able to do anything. The strength of the blood-clad sect is really terrifying. How can the Blue Dragon King block them alone? He won't die just like that, right? Seeing this scene, everyone started to worry for Shao Qin. There was no way out, no way out. Furthermore, there were the blood-clad sect experts eyeing Shao Qin like tigers watching their prey. How was the Blue Dragon King going to break out of this situation? No matter how one thought about it, they could not think of a way out of this situation. At best, they could only force their way out. However, what was the point of Shao Qin coming here after abandoning the Dragon's Gate elders? "Big brother Shao Qin, just leave by yourself. There is no need to care about us," Emo Qin and the others said worriedly with grave expressions. Shao Qin smiled faintly and said indifferently, "Don't worry." After turning around and facing Can Minghua and the blood-clad sect's upper echelon, Shao Qin did not show any fear on his face. "Shao Qin, I can't help but admire you. Even at this point, you are still so bold. What's wrong? You want to attack us? I will not give you that chance. Ah! I will drag you down to death." Can Minghua laughed loudly, and the tens of thousands of blood-clad sect elites soared into the air, charging at Shao Qin. Despite facing such an advantage, this Can Minghua actually wanted to use numbers to overwhelm Shao Qin to death. Everyone cursed in their hearts at how despicable Can Minghua was. However, there was nothing they could do. "Dao! Just at this moment, Shao Chun suddenly shouted, and a faint Tao disc appeared behind him. At this moment, the complete saber great Tao unleashed its full might. At this moment, the world seemed to merge with Shao Chun, and he executed the Tao with his words. No one could block the might of the great Tao. Pu Ci. The tens of thousands of elite cultivators in the air bore the brunt of this Tao might, causing them to vomit blood. This was the might of the great Tao. Only a small number of geniuses during the peak of the ancient era could comprehend it. This was a distant legend, an ancient myth. Today, it reappeared in the world. Tao! Shao Chun shouted again, and the Tao disc gathered into a spot. It was resplendent and dazzling, like a powerful saber light. Then, it suddenly extended. The blood-clad sect cultivators vomiting blood in the air suffered another heavy blow. This second Tao was like a club to the head, knocking them all into the air. This scene thoroughly shocked Kan Minghua and the other blood-clad sect upper echelon. The vast Tao might forced the experts of this group of experts into a sorry state, forcing them to take a few steps back. When the tens of thousands of elites fell on their own, they all paled. Chapter 1469. Two shouts of the great Taos might pushed back tens of thousands of blood-clad sect elite. Such an incredible scene made everyone feel incredulous. They had never seen or heard of such a thing before. How can this be? Kan Minghua and the other blood-clad sect upper echelon retreated far away. When they saw this scene, they paled and trembled. As Shao Chen's long hair fluttered, he gave off a might of the great Tao from his body. There was no magnificent halo or resplendent light around him. However, as he stood there, no one dared to look at him directly. This is too horrifying. How did he do it? When the other cultivators chased away by the blood-clad sect saw this scene, they were all shocked, feeling somewhat stupefied. Why was it like this? Earlier, Shao Chen's imposing aura and the killing chi of the tens of thousands of blood-clad sect elites made everyone's heart palpitate. How did it crumble with just two shouts from Shao Chen, vomiting blood and getting defeated? Emperor Wu's aura could suppress the weak and achieve the same effect. However, everyone knew that Shao Chen's two shouts were different from his so-called aura. Firstly, aura needed to be stored up. Furthermore, it needed to be against a much weaker opponent. Secondly, Shao Chen's aura was clearly only that of a seventh heaven martial emperor, Emperor Wu. How strong could his aura be? It's the Tao. It's great Tao energy. Chu Yang of the Zodiac Hall suddenly exclaimed in the crowd. This startled Chu Yang to his senses. As he looked at Shao Chen, his eyes were filled with extreme incredulity. The Tao was a legendary realm. Even during the peak of the martial epoch, only a few outstanding talents grasped it. After the decline of the martial epoch, great Tao energy never appeared again. It had already become a myth. However, now, not only did the Blue Dragon King Shao Chun appear as the shadowless saber sovereign, but he also displayed a godlike great Tao energy. The many outstanding talents felt like they had just woken up from a dream. There were only a few mentions of the Tao in the ancient record. Many people even doubted whether it existed or not. Is it really the Tao? If the answer was yes, then everything would be easy to understand. The might of the great Tao was not something that ordinary people could block. Compared to them, they were no longer on the same level. Let's attack together. If we don't kill him, we'll all die. Tens of thousands of the blood-clad sect elites retreated in defeat. The blood-clad sect's prestige was damaged. The blood-clad sect master would definitely be enraged. At that time, none of them would have a good ending. After all, only Ao Lang grasped the life-extending pill. That was their lifeblood. A ferocious aura flashed in Kan Minghua's eyes. He composed himself and rushed over first. Regardless of whether or not Shao Chun had really comprehended the power of the Great Path, he did not believe that he, a level 9 existence, could not deal with Shao Chun, who was only a level 7 cultivator. Furthermore, the 3 Dragon Kings of the 3 Seas and the 8 Law Enforcers of the Blood-clad sect were all sovereign martial emperors. Let's go together. A strong wind blew. Kan Minghua and the 11 sovereign martial emperors forcefully resisted the great Tao might. With a murderous aura that filled the sky, they pounced towards Shao Qin. Even in this golden age, sovereign martial emperors were still peak experts. A sovereign martial emperor could hold his own and establish a rank 8 sect. Under the lead of Kan Minghua, the 9th Heaven Emperor Wu, the 11 sovereign martial emperors soared into the air at the same time. Their auras merged and stirred up the winds and clouds. It was like the sky pressing down on Shao Qin. Whoosh! Suddenly, the light dimmed. One could not even see their fingers when stretched out. The dilapidated plaza turned pitch black. Those were 12 sovereign martial emperors. When they pressed over, they even covered the sky. Retreat! 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 When the cultivators watching from behind saw such a lineup, they paled in fright and quickly retreated. This was the first time a battle involving so many sovereign martial emperors had appeared in the heavenly starry ocean during this golden age. When 12 sovereign martial emperors attacked together, their destructive power was clear without even needing to think. Shao Qin's face sank. He shielded the Dragon's Gate's people behind him, encasing them in his Tao might. A huge battle could break out at any moment. The Eastern Sea Dragon King was the first to arrive. When he punched, it was like a huge dragon claw tearing bloody marks in space. Blood Dragon Claw. This was the Eastern Sea Dragon King's famous martial technique. He was very confident in his attack. Even if the Eastern Sea Dragon King could not defeat Shao Qin, he would definitely be able to knock him back. As long as Shao Qin took a step back, he would be able to regain control of the Dragon's Gate's elders. At that time, he would be able to obtain victory without a fight. Shao Qin's expression did not change. He swung his palm in the air, and saber lights shot out from his palm. Then, he clenched his fist and grabbed all the saber light. He infused the great Tao energy from the saber Tao with his primordial energy. Then, he executed a distant legend. The light of the distant legend illuminated this pitch-black space. When the palm and fist clashed, the Eastern Sea Dragon King's palm broke. He vomited a mouthful of blood and was knocked back like a sandbag. The Eastern Sea Dragon King was like an insignificant hunting dog crashing into the tough body of an elephant, bouncing back. As for Shao Qin, he was like a mountain, firmly protecting the Dragon's Gate's people behind him. The internal organs in Shao Qin's body churned endlessly. However, he forcefully suppressed them. Only 700 strands of primordial energy remained. If he had 1,000, with the support of great Tao energy, Shao Qin would not have been injured at all. At this moment there was no time to recover. The 12 sovereign martial emperors took turns attacking, showing no intention of stopping. Taking turns to wear Shao Qin down? To think that 12 sovereign martial emperors are taking turns to wear Shao Qin down. This scene truly stunned everyone. To think that they even used such a method to deal with a mere blue dragon king. They completely tossed aside their dignity as sovereign martial emperors. This is bad. If this continues, Shao Qin will die sooner or later. Indeed. He received the peak strikes of a sovereign martial emperor and did not even take a step back. He must be protecting the Dragon's Gate's elders behind him. This Shao Qin is really foolish. If they clashed head-on like this, they would definitely suffer 800 casualties. After all, the peak strikes of a sovereign martial emperor were something that even a prime would have to consider carefully. Shao Qin used great Tao energy to support himself and executed the myriad heaven divine fist, clashing head-on with the peak strikes of 12 sovereign martial emperors. Loud rumbles rang out endlessly. Every time they exchanged moves, a crack would appear in the city below them, causing it to tremble. After 7 loud sounds, the cultivators who had already retreated 50 kilometers away were horrified to discover that the crack had extended to their feet. They quickly withdrew and retreated all the way to the city wall before stopping. As Shao Qin stood before the Dragon's Gate's elders, he was like an impregnable wall. Be it lightning, wind, or fire, he did not retreat even half a step. When everyone saw Xiao Chen's trembling figure after receiving the peak strikes of 11 sovereign martial emperors, they were deeply shocked. For some reason, they felt that they were too insignificant before this figure. You truly deserve to be the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Chen. You are loyal and loyal. Even at this point, you still have not retreated. However, you can die now. Can Minghua, who was the last to make a move, smiled coldly when he saw the pale Xiao Chen leaking blood from a corner of his lips. Then, he swung his sword. Can Minghua had stored up power with the cultivation of the Ninth Heaven's Emperor Wu, waiting for this moment. The tip of Can Minghua's sword lit up, looking like a spark in the darkness. Following that, the spark burned the starry heavens with the momentum of a prairie fire. Prairie fire spark. When Can Minghua swung his sword, it felt like the entire universe was burning. Everyone was captivated by this stunning sword strike. The Ninth Heaven's Emperor Wu, Can Minghua, was someone much stronger than the previous 11 sovereign martial emperors. Oh no! Xiao Chen is going to lose. When the many cultivators saw that Xiao Chen's Tao might had already fallen significantly, they could not help exclaiming. The extremely fast sword strike arrived before Xiao Chen the moment the prairie fire burned. It was incredibly fast. Dang! A melodious sound rang out, and a berserk flaming shockwave radiated out. The shockwave formed horrifying fire tornadoes surging out. No one could see what was happening in the center. Only the Dragon's Gate's people in the center of the flames could clearly see that it was the lunar shadow saber. In the time it took for a spark to fly, the disheveled Xiao Chen held his saber in his left hand and held it horizontally in front of him, using the scabbard to block this sword strike. Xiao Chen's internal injuries worsened, and he could not help vomiting a mouthful of blood onto the scabbard. Ao Jiao, if you are not going to draw the scabbard, when are you going to do so? Xiao Chen's hair fluttered wildly as he grabbed the saber's hilt with his right hand. Then, he shouted and pulled forcefully. Chapter 1470. The lunar shadow saber, which had been dormant for 5 years, finally came out of its scabbard when Xiao Chen did his best to draw it. A resplendent saber light came from the lunar shadow saber's streamlined blade, releasing resplendent saber light magnificently. There was no startling aura. The resplendent saber light flickered for a moment before withdrawing, looking like a 1,000-year-old ancient pool. It was tranquil and distant, containing the vicissitudes of time and the glory of the past. The withdrawn saber light was now like a pool of autumn water, flickering with moonlight. It was that simple. Xiao Chen drew the saber and brandished it. It was like the shadow of the bright moon, silent and traceless. Shattering sounds resounded. The divine weapon, which was blocked by the scabbard, shattered under this saber strike. Then, it shot out with a sharp force. What saber is this? How can it even break my divine weapon? The divine weapon was connected to the heart. When the life divine weapon shattered, Can Minghua felt intense pain in his heart, causing him to vomit a mouthful of blood. Receive a saber strike from me as well. When Xiao Chen grasped the lunar shadow saber again, he felt a surge of energy from the transcendent divine weapon, the lunar shadow saber. This energy continuously flowed through all the meridians in his body, replenishing all the primordial energy that he exhausted. At this moment, he became one with the saber. Xiao Chen soared into the air and executed the most tyrannical move of the flawless saber technique, the dragon subduing stance. The lunar shadow saber subdued the 1,000 true dragon might of the lunar shadow saber, using it for its own use. The instant the saber chopped down, the strong true dragon might pressured Can Minghua into trembling. The divine weapon in Can Minghua's hand already shattered. He was at a loss when facing this tyrannical saber strike, not knowing how to defend. In the end, Can Minghua had no choice but to use his bare hands to block the saber. He infused all his cultivation into his hands. The instant the saber chopped down, Can Minghua pressed his hands together, trying to catch the lunar shadow saber. Unexpectedly, Can Minghua's hands found nothing. His heart suddenly sank and horror filled his entire body. He failed to catch it. A berserk aura turned into a strong wind sweeping out. It blew away all the flaming tornadoes in the surroundings. The scene of the ruins of the plaza appeared before everyone's eyes once more. The instant the flames scattered, they happened to see Xiao Chen chopping Can Minghua in half with his saber. Boom! Cracks spread everywhere on the ground. The aftershocks of this saber strike finally swept through the entire city. Rumbling sounds continuously rang out as the entire city started to collapse. The people on the city walls hurriedly flew into the air in fright. Dead as the Emperor Wu of the Ninth Heaven, Can Minghua actually died just like that. How exactly did Xiao Chen block that sword? What exactly happened within the flames that caused the entire situation to be reversed in an instant? It was completely unfathomable. Holding the saber in his hand, Xiao Chen stood proudly. The reborn lunar shadow saber was much stronger than he had expected. Transcendent divine weapon, this was a true transcendent divine weapon. It surpassed divine weapons and was unparalleled. There was a faint glow on the blade, but it was neither intense nor dazzling. However, when the crowd's gazes came into contact with this light, tears of blood fell from the eyes of many of them as they felt intense pain. Saber! Everyone was incomparably alarmed. What kind of blade was this? It was flickering with luster. Even from 500 kilometers away, the saber chi contained in the saber chi could pierce and injure people's eyes. There is no such saber on the divine weapon ranking. Someone asked, feeling confused. Of the 10 transcendent divine weapons, there was only one saber, the coiling monarch time saber. After today, there will be one more. The moment Xiao Chen said that, no one dared to question him anymore. Without a doubt, this was a treasure saber that surpassed divine weapons. Can Minghua's defeat was understandable. If he had known that Xiao Chen had a transcendent divine weapon, he would not have died so carelessly. Good move. The Blue Dragon King truly lives up to his reputation as the Blue Dragon King. Even though he has been silent for 5 years, he still cannot touch the reverse scale of a dragon. The Western Sea Dragon King slowly walked out of a cloud of dust, wearing his scarlet battle armor. The Western Sea Dragon King's expression remained calm, appearing as calm as still water as he looked at the ruined Western Dragon City. When the Western Sea Dragon King saw the tens of thousands of Dragon's Gate elites lying on the ground and the blood-clad sect upper echelon frightened by Xiao Chen, his expression did not change, showing neither joy nor sorrow. It was like everything before him had nothing to do with him. Actually, it did not matter. As long as the Western Sea Dragon King killed Xiao Chen and snatched away the transcendent divine weapon in his hand. With the support of the Treasure Master, it would not be difficult to build an even stronger blood-clad sect. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and sized up the Western Sea Dragon King. After not seeing him for 5 years, the other party's strength had improved somewhat horribly. The scarlet battle armor on the Western Sea Dragon King looked even more strange. It was like a sea of blood splashed on the Western Sea Dragon King's clothes. Xiao Chen said indifferently, "Make your move. There is nothing to say between us. I will give you 3 chances to make your move. After 3 times I will take your head." When the Western Sea Dragon King heard that, he was stunned. Then, he laughed loudly. "Arrogant? I thought that I was already arrogant enough. Unexpectedly, you are even more arrogant than me. If not for your transcendent divine weapon, Can Minghua's sword strike would have taken your life. Now I already know all your trump cards. What are you going to use to fight me?" Xiao Chen smiled coldly in his heart. He had no intention of arguing with the other party. Before coming, he was still somewhat worried about the Western Sea Dragon King's strength. After he saw it clearly, he no longer worried. He was like the other blood-clad sect disciples. It seemed like he relied on external items, the scarlet clothes on his body, to obtain his current strength. However, the scarlet clothes on his body were of a higher grade. That was all. The Western Sea Dragon King was still a distance away from a true Holy Lord. The other Holy Lands did not make a move on the blood-clad sect because they feared the mysterious person behind the blood-clad sect. This was the saying, when beating a dog, look at its master. It looks like you have already given up on this opportunity. In that case, I have no choice but to use the move that I saved for you in advance. The cycle heart spun silently in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness, storing up power and waiting to be unleashed. The Western Sea Dragon King revealed a cold, disdainful smile. In his eyes, Xiao Chen was already a dead man. Wanting to do whatever he wanted by relying on a transcendent divine weapon was simply a fool's dream. Blue Dragon King, I will stand right here. Let's see how you are going to kill me. Ao Lang reared his head back and laughed maniacally. Then, he unleashed his aura without hiding it. His body released a boundless scarlet light. His aura soared continuously until it approached the level of the Holy Lord before stopping. Thick scarlet clouds covered the sky and the sun. As the clouds churned, they looked like a surging sea of blood. Waves splashed up endlessly, materializing many mysterious phenomena. How strong! The crowd, who had retreated 500 kilometers, all felt a strong pressure. This pressure was already close to the level of the Holy Lord. This is the aura of the Ninth Heaven's Emperor Wu at his peak. No wonder the blood-clad sect's sect master could break the Dragon's Gate's protective formation with one strike. Isn't Xiao Chen being too careless? After fighting so many battles, could he still have a trump card to kill this Western Sea Dragon King? The crowd did not believe what Xiao Chen said about taking off Ao Lang's head with one strike. It was not that they did not believe it. Rather, they felt that it was simply impossible. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and looked at the Western Sea Dragon King, who was 1 kilometer away. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. To Xiao Chen, he would not even need the time to blink to cross 1 kilometer. Cycle in full, reversing time and space. Xiao Chen ignored the other party's arrogant laughter, wanting to erupt with the state of cycle in his sea of consciousness at full force. The resistance of the entire world appeared again. That's not right. This time, it is much stronger. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. He felt the resistance he faced this time. Compared to when he unleashed the state of cycle at full force on the desolate island, the resistance he faced was at least 50% stronger. It looked like experts had an aura around them. Reversing time and space in front of an expert was much more difficult than reversing time and space in front of an ordinary person. Damn it! Could it be that this saber strike that I specially prepared for the other party is going to end here? Up until now, even when facing 12 sovereign martial emperors, Xiao Chen had not used the state of cycle. Xiao Chen had been waiting for this moment. After suppressing it for a long time, he had not expected such a change. The sudden change caught Xiao Chen somewhat off guard. He brought out the state of cycle and held the saber scabbard with his right hand, but he could not draw it. Idiot master, quickly draw your saber. I'll help you break his aura. Ao Jiao suddenly said at the crucial moment. When the Western Sea Dragon King saw that Xiao Chen did not move, he thought that Xiao Chen did not dare to make a move. He smiled coldly and said, "You are scared silly, right? This king's strength is no longer what it was 5 years ago. Even if I stand there without moving, you will not be able to find any openings." However, the moment the Western Sea Dragon King said that, he felt that something was wrong. However, he could not figure it out. "You are already dead." Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and soared into the air. The Western Sea Dragon King laughed maniacally. "What a joke, Pu Si." A saber light appeared on the Western Sea Dragon King's neck. Blood spurted out, and the head of the maniacally laughing Western Sea Dragon King suddenly flew off. Xiao Chen, who soared into the air, seemed to have expected this. He stretched out his hand and caught the Western Sea Dragon King's head. Chapter 1471. Holding the Western Sea Dragon King's head, Shao Chun descended from the sky and stomped on Ao Lang's headless body. Bang! The strong impact immediately crushed this headless body, shattering its bones. The heart of an emperor immediately shattered and gave off a boundless scarlet spiritual light, spreading around Shao Chun like stars. Holding the blood-clad sect master's head, Shao Chun appeared stern amid this boundless scarlet light, looking like a deity. Dead? What's going on? Did anyone see clearly how Shao Chun attacked? Damn! How did this Ao Lang die after laughing? Who in the world did it? That scared me to death. His head suddenly flew off. Did I see wrongly? Damn! What exactly happened? Who saw it clearly? Tell us. The many cultivators who had already retreated far away from the city nearly went crazy. Many of them even wondered if they saw wrongly. However, the scene before them had really happened. The strong blood-clad sect master, Ao Lang, had his head in Shao Chun's hand. Like Ao Feng, Shao Chun stomped on Ao Lang's body, turning it into a pile of mud. He was deader than dead. However, everyone only saw Shao Chun sheath his saber. They did not see Shao Chun make a move. Even the outstanding talents and the experts with good eyesight did not see it. This was not the strangest thing. The strangest thing was that even the blood-clad sect master did not know how he died. The moment before his death, he clearly did not know anything at all. He even shouted at Shao Chun. It was like someone had chosen that moment with the judgment pen. When the time was up, Ao Lang would die. Strange. This simple battle was so strange that it made one's hair stand on end. No one could figure it out or understand it. However, no matter what, the result was already set in stone. Touching the reverse scale of a dragon meant death. The Blue Dragon King, Shao Chun, had remained silent for 5 years. Once again, he used his actions to prove this point. Shao Chun looked at the ruins of the city and the miserable state of the blood-clad sects, tens of thousands of elite disciples. After this battle, even if Shao Chun remained silent for 100 years or even 1,000 years, he would not be able to do anything. No one would dare to recklessly attack the Dragon's Gate. The blood-clad sect's miserable state used the bloody facts to show everyone the consequences of offending the Dragon's Gate. After tossing the Western Sea Dragon King's head into the universe ring, Shao Chun felt his entire body go weak. There was a horrifying wound on his chest. Blood flowed out incessantly, and it was surrounded by black demon chi. This was what the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang left for Shao Chun before he died. From the outside, it seemed as if nothing had happened, but in fact, the moment he traveled to the future. Shao Chun exchanged moves with the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang in the time it took for a spark to fly, deciding life and death in one move. Even if Shao Chun traveled to the future, the Western Sea Dragon King would not just stand there and let Shao Chun kill him. That was not realistic. That is impossible. In the future, the Western Sea Dragon King will be a fool. His greatest advantage was the element of surprise. These 4 words should not be underestimated. When Shao Chun traveled to the future, his saber strike came without any warning. It appeared right before the Western Sea Dragon King. How could it be easy to receive the peak strike of a person who had stored up power in an unexpected situation? How difficult was it? It was like an ordinary person walking on the street normally and suddenly having a flower vase fall on their head. The second advantage was that it would be very difficult to counterattack, as Shao Chun would return to the past in the next second. There was one final advantage. Even if the Western Sea Dragon King managed to block it by luck, Shao Chun would be able to figure out how to block it. After returning to the past, Shao Chun would predict what the Western Sea Dragon King would do in advance. Then, when the Western Sea Dragon King suddenly changed his plans, he would still be flustered. This was the first time Shao Chun used the state of cycle in actual combat. While the battle appeared easy to others, Shao Chun won by luck. If not for the help of the lunar shadow saber, the state of cycle would not have been able to break free from the time and space where the Western Sea Dragon King was. Even if the Western Sea Dragon King managed to break free, the time left for him to make a move would be much shorter. Even so, there was still a wound on Xiao Chen's chest. He had indeed won by luck. The state of cycle was boundlessly mysterious. However, Xiao Chen had only scratched the surface of it. Perhaps it could not even be considered scratching the surface. It was too unfortunate that the cycle arts had only the first chapter. Big Brother Xiao Chen. The Dragon's Gate elders, who had been protected by Xiao Chen, rushed over and surrounded Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen barely managed to stop his wound. Then, he smiled, and a Dragon's Gate's warship flew out of the universe ring. He said, "I said that I would bring you away. Come back with me." After saying that, Xiao Chen's body swayed slightly. He was too tired. Chen stepped forward and quickly supported Xiao Chen. Then, the group leaped onto the Dragon's Gate's warship. There was no time to explain. They had to leave this troublesome place first. The remnant forces of the blood-clad sect had already scattered the instant the Western Sea Dragon King died. The injured upper echelons of the blood-clad sect fled even faster. The huge blood-clad sect collapsed in an instant. This made everyone sigh. Compared to the Holy Lands, these upstart sects still lacked accumulations. They could not withstand great winds and waves. After the Dragon's Gate suffered this calamity, it would definitely undergo a nirvanic rebirth. After unifying the Western Sea, the Dragon's Gate's prestige would soar, and it would become the center of the region. As for Xiao Chen, he would continue the legend of the Blue Dragon King. The identity of the shadowless saber sovereign would make his experiences even more legendary. Without a doubt, the Kunlun realm's luck belonged to him. As the crowd watched the Dragon's Gate's warship leave, they felt complicated emotions welling up in their hearts. In the short span of half a day, their emotions as outsiders had experienced many ups and downs. Several times, their hearts felt like they could not take it anymore, about to jump out. The shock that the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Chen, brought them was simply too incredible. They probably would not be able to digest this within half a month. Chu Yang and the other outstanding talents around the Holy Daughter Yu Bingyun felt indescribably bitter. Originally, they were invited by the Holy Daughter to rescue the people of the Dragon's Gate. Now that they thought about it, they were too naive. The blood-clad sect was much stronger than they thought. If they had really attacked, their fates would have been very unsightly. However, these outstanding talents were rather open-minded. Many of them were even on good terms with Xiao Chen. When they saw that Xiao Chen was not only fine but even stronger than before, they rejoiced. For example, the Northern Sea Alliance's young alliance chief, Yi Chen, the Human Demon Sea's Dugu Ao, and the Myriad Fiend Island's Di Xinhan. What a fellow! This fellow really hid it from us. After this, we will all go to the Dragon's Gate together. We have to harass Xiao Chen. Ah! Yi Chen laughed very happily without a care in the world. The bitterness in the others' hearts had yet to fade. They simply could not bring themselves to laugh. When Yi Chen saw that no one replied, he laughed dryly in embarrassment and did not say anything more. This was how Chu Yang felt. From the moment Xiao Chen took off his mask, his heart was in a mess. Bingyun, I did not manage to help much this time. Sorry for the ridicule. If you have any instructions in the future, this Chu will definitely be the first to rush over. Yu Bingyun quickly said, Young Master Chu is too polite. No matter what, everyone coming is a show of your concern for this little girl. Bingyun will definitely remember this. Chu Yang smiled and said, Unfortunately, Miss Bingyun already has someone in your heart. I'll take my leave first. Like I said, although this Chu is weak, if you need help in the future, just say the word and I will definitely be the first to rush over. Although Chu Yang felt bitter in his heart, he did not lose his grace. He performed a cupped fist salute and took his leave. The group of outstanding talents left one after another. Yu Bingyun thanked them one by one. Although her efforts did not work, there might be a perfect result. The smile on Yu Bingyun's face already expressed her current mood. Speaking of which, why did Xiao Chen change his identity? Hiding himself is not his style, Yi Chen said with some conflict after thinking hard. The demon mixed blood, Dugao said indifferently. Even if you use your toes to think, if he exposed his identity, how could the primes give him the chance to grow to such a level? That's right. Why did I not think of that? Yi Chen smacked his forehead, startled awake. That's not right. You are indirectly calling me stupid. However, Dugu Ao ignored Yi Chen. After saying goodbye to Yu Bingyun, he left. At the same time, in the center of the heavenly starry ocean, in the largest sea market controlled by the Treasure Master, the mysterious Treasure Master was currently playing Go with the Geomaster Jiang Tianxia in a pavilion above the gigantic Immortal statue. The black and white Go stones competed with each other on the crisscrossing Go board. Treasure Master, after not playing for so many years, your Go skills have deteriorated. Or are you purposely letting me win? If you let me win again, you will really lose. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and placed down a white Go stone, chopping down a large dragon. Then, he stretched out his hand and picked up the black Go stones one by one. The white Go stones instantly held the advantage. The Treasure Master smiled faintly and said, Old Jiang, I never let you win. It is just that my Go board is larger than the one in your heart. Dang. Right after the Treasure Master spoke, he tapped the table with his finger. The wooden Go board instantly turned to dust, and the Go stones fell to the table. When the dust settled, Jiang Tian was shocked to discover that the table, which was several times larger than the Go board, had crisscrossed and formed a new Go board. The black and white Go stones did not change. However, now that the white Go stones fell into this larger Go board, the white Go stones, which originally held the advantage, immediately became dangerous. Chapter 1472. He did not seem to be as unfathomable as he appeared before Jiang Tian and the others. Many years ago there was such a person as well. Xiao Chen suddenly rose up and ruined the Myriad Law Fiend Master's plans, leaving an eternal scar. The Myriad Law Fiend Master took a deep breath, his expression changing involuntarily. I always suspected that the ancient people made this up. How could it possibly exist? The Bright Moon Empress spoke again, stating that Xiao Chen had already attained the Tao. The more the heaven-punishing corpse god spoke, the more horrified he felt. Attack then. If we still do not attack, we will not have any more chances. Seeing that the Myriad Law Fiend Master was about to leave, the Bright Moon Empress cautiously led Jiang Tian away. After saying that, the Myriad Law Fiend Master immediately left, not lingering. The Treasure Master toyed with the puppet pearl in his hand as a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. The Treasure Master smiled and said, Even if we do not give up, we will not be able to hold on for long. After another 2 or 3 years, the side effects of the blood-clad battle armor will erupt. At that time, we will all be crippled. Everything in the world has its own rules. Those that succeed in one go are not good. This little fellow's growth is really startling. Perhaps he managed to grow to such a level in a moment of carelessness, the Myriad Law Fiend Master sighed. This was an unprecedented major matter. Never before had the 3 primes of the deity Tao Union felt that the matter was serious and wanted to discuss it together. He even grasped the legendary Tao. Given some time, he will definitely surpass us. However, the Treasure Master did not give him that chance. He did not want to drag himself into unnecessary danger, so he left after saying so. This old thief is really smart. He was already very careful, but he still discovered him. He left after saying so without hesitation, the Bright Moon Empress muttered with a slight frown. After being stunned for a while, Jiang Tian laughed loudly. No matter how big the Go puzzle is, so what? When the so-called chess pieces go beyond one's control, everything is nonsense. In the Cactus Palm City, the Treasure Master, who was in a secret room, Just learned of the blood-clad sect's destruction from the young treasure master, Yiling Qitian. You make the decision, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor said as he looked at the strongest of the three, Emperor Forsaken. Jiang Tian smiled and said, "Are you trying to incite me to defect? I don't think it's true either. However, according to the news I received, he seems to have really attained the Tao, the great Tao of the saber." In Xiao Chen's heart, he had already decided that the blood-clad sect was a sacrificial pawn. He did not care about the gains or losses. No one below the Supreme Being level could defeat him. The moment these words came out, Jiang Tian and the Myriad Law Fiend Master were both shocked, clearly surprised. Those that could not be seen through were always the ones that people feared the most. The Treasure Master seemed to be playing this game. However, after verifying it from many places, the news was confirmed. Xiao Chen was the shadowless Saber Sovereign. Not only was he not crippled, but he was also promoted to become a new giant of this world. So. The Treasure Master stood up and waved his hand. Then, he quickly left the pavilion as if he wanted to avoid something, vanishing in the blink of an eye. The Treasure Master smiled but did not reply. Then, he said softly, "Senior Jiang, you have reached great heights in the geomancy lineage. You traversed the Yin and Yang realms with ease, but you also met your limit. Xiao, do you want to make a move?" The heaven-punishing corpse god was the most direct. He went straight to the point, unable to restrain his killing intent. Jiang Tian asked sullenly, "What exactly do you want to do?" Jiang Tian sighed. "If it were possible, I really would not want to see him make a move. He gives me a feeling that it is fine if he does not make a move. However, once he makes a move, the entire heavenly starry ocean will fall into a calamity." Compared to Xiao Chen destroying the blood-clad sect, the news of him grasping the saber great Tao was what truly moved the Myriad Law Fiend Master. Fortunately, we already obtained the puppet pearl. Even if the blood-clad sect is destroyed now, it will not affect the overall situation. The Treasure Master probably did not expect the blood-clad sect to suffer such a heavy blow. It doesn't matter. Whatever you think, goodbye. It was even rumored that even if a prime appeared, they might not be able to do anything to Xiao Chen. When the Bright Moon Empress received a letter, her expression changed slightly, appearing incredibly shocked. Her eyes filled with shock. "Let's go as well. We cannot remain in this place for long." However, if it was destroyed now, the Bright Moon Empress would probably be so frustrated that she would vomit blood. The Go game had not changed. It was just that the Go board had grown larger, and the situation had flipped. Even the Treasure Master, Emperor Forsaken, did not view him as a true enemy. This is unexpected. It looks like the plan has to be brought forward after Ing Zongtian, who was like a teacher and a friend to Xiao Chen, came to know. He revealed a gratified expression. The Treasure Master probably guessed that someone would cause trouble in the blood-clad sect during their conversation earlier. However, he absolutely did not expect that someone would destroy the entire blood-clad sect. The Bright Moon Empress showed a complicated expression. However, she still told the Treasure Master everything that she knew. Many years later, there was another person who had escaped his control. The Treasure Master was not angry at the losses from the destruction of the blood-clad sect. Instead, this matter surpassed his plans and control. Go out, I understand. However, some people just cannot resist the temptation. Even though they know the consequences, they still believe that they will be an exception. The Treasure Master controlled his rage and waved his hand to let Yiling out. The Treasure Master did not give Yiling a chance to show the world his true strength and trump cards. The Treasure Master said indifferently, "I know your purpose in calling me out. I am just a sacrificial pawn. I've already achieved my goal. If there are any more gains, that would be a pleasant surprise." At first, the cyclic Astral Lord was stunned for a moment. Then, he rejoiced. With the existence that comprehended a Tao, his strength will improve further. It should not be difficult for him to complete the Kunlun Road. After a long silence, the treasure master sighed and muttered to himself. Between the giant statue's fingers, the three of them were as small as ants. The statue lowered its eyes, as if it could see everything in front of it clearly. I just received news that Shao Qin already killed the blood-clad sect master, Ao Lang. He also destroyed the entire blood-clad sect's headquarters. The upper echelons of the blood-clad sect all fled with severe injuries. When Jiang Tian heard this, his expression changed slightly. You gave up on the blood-clad sect? Even if the Holy Lord came personally, he would not be able to destroy the blood-clad sect. However, Shao Qin managed to do it. Yiling felt somewhat dissatisfied, unwilling to believe that this news was true. He seems to have grasped the Tao. Finally, he could truly stand on his own. This was the best news he had heard before the arrival of the Devil Tribulation. The strength that Shao Qin displayed in Western Dragon City was simply too startling. After 5 years of silence, Shao Qin shocked the entire Kunlun realm with one brilliant feat. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor shook his head and said, "No." Back then, before he advanced to Martial Emperor, he was already hard to kill. Now that he has grown to such a level, it will be even harder to kill him. The Myriad Law Fiend Master said softly. He has been cautious all his life. How could he let himself fall into danger so easily? This fellow is too mysterious. Although they did not really care about the blood-clad sect, they still understood the blood-clad sect's strength. When the treasure master heard this, he was startled. The usually calm and unfathomable treasure master showed anger for the first time. "No, I have to make a trip to Heavenly Star Island. I have to figure this out." Two figures appeared out of nowhere behind Jiang Tian. The Bright Moon Empress and the Myriad Law Fiend Master, the two primes, appeared silently. "We kept getting the wrong information. The Shadowless Saber Sovereign is Shao Qin. Not only did Shao Qin appear in Western Dragon City, but he is also much stronger than he was 5 years ago." As for the three primes on the deity Dao Union's side, they were all shocked. Emperor Forsaken, the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God, and the Dongyue Ghost Emperor gathered together to discuss this matter. "I want to tell you that this world is very big. You still have a lot of room for improvement. As long as you are willing, I can satisfy you." Ha ha ha. Interesting. Interesting. Based on the two primes' words, it seemed like they intended to work together to test the treasure master. At the same time, the other primes of the Kunlun realm received the news. Jiang Tian asked, "What's wrong?" Chapter 1473. Emperor Forsaken showed an uncertain expression. The other two did not know what he was thinking. The two did not want to disturb Qitian, so they could only wait. After a long time, Emperor Forsaken said coldly, "There's no need. He has not reached the point of death yet. Wait until he opens the doors of the Blue Dragon Palace. Then, he can die." The Blue Dragon Palace? The Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God felt confused. Why was Emperor Forsaken still nurturing a tiger at this time? "That's right. It is the Blue Dragon Palace," Emperor Forsaken said indifferently. Back then, the Qing Emperor could rise up because of this Blue Dragon Palace. Although they are all human holy lands, the Phoenix's Passion Palace, the White Emperor City, and the Divine Martial Gate do not have a similar holy palace. Have you thought about the reason? This was a matter from 10,000 years ago. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God did not understand. Furthermore, they did not pay much attention to this information. Emperor Forsaken was different. 10,000 years ago, the deity race was even stronger than it was now. However, it still fell to the hands of the Qing Emperor and his Dragon's Gate. For the past 10,000 years, the deity race had been investigating the Blue Dragon Palace's origins, spending a lot of manpower and resources. I never thought about it. Could there be some other mysteries? The Dongyue Ghost Emperor's eyes flickered as he looked at Emperor Forsaken with some urgency. The Blue Dragon Palace was an even more horrifying existence than the 8 Great Forbidden Lands. It would be a lie to say that they were not tempted. Of course, there are other mysteries. 10,000 years ago, this Blue Dragon Palace did not exist. Do you understand what I mean? That is to say, the Blue Dragon Palace did not come from the Kunlun realm, but from the great realm of the Abandoned Land. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God were greatly startled. They had never heard of such a secret before. This was their first time hearing about it. Is this true? The three Holy Masters have personally confirmed it. How can it be fake? Emperor Forsaken said in a deep voice. The reason why the Qing Emperor was able to rise back then was because of the Blue Dragon Palace, and this Blue Dragon Palace contains the inheritance of the Dragon Clan from the Outer Realm. The Qing Emperor inherited the legacy of the extraterritorial Dragon Clan. That's why he became so powerful and became the strongest person in the post-ancient era. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor was still a little confused. Then, why didn't the legacy of the other three Holy Masters' lands appear? Only the legacy of the Dragon Sect has appeared. Emperor Forsaken replied, I don't know. Only by entering the Blue Dragon Temple will we know the real answer. Therefore, we can't touch Shaoqun now. We can only kill him if he opens the door of the Blue Dragon Temple. The Heaven-Punishing Corpse God suddenly said, Why are you willing to tell us such important information today? Things are already beyond my control. Don't worry. If we really enter the Blue Dragon Temple, the three of us will definitely split the benefits equally. Clearly, the initial silence was because Emperor Forsaken was considering whether to tell the Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God. Now, it looked like Emperor Forsaken had already made his decision. Shaoqun's growth had exceeded expectations. Shaoqun had forced the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God and the Dongyue Ghost Emperor to make a compromise, truly joining hands with the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God and the Dongyue Ghost Emperor. As for how to decide, it will depend on the two of you. If the two of you insist on killing Shaoqun now, I will not force you. In that case, I won't force it. I'll definitely do my best to eliminate this threat. Emperor Forsaken tossed the ball to the two, and did not say anything else. After a while, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God decided not to kill Shaoqun for now. The result was within Emperor Forsaken's expectations. No one could resist the temptation of the Blue Dragon Temple. On Heavenly Star Island, on the Dragon's Gate's main peak, Shaoqun treated his injuries in his courtyard. This place was one of the few places that had not been destroyed by the blood-clad sect. The other injuries on Shaoqun's body were not particularly severe. The only problematic one was the wound on his chest. Before Ao Lang died, he had infused all his cultivation into that strike. If not for Shaoqun's already strong physical body, his heart would have shattered. This strike would have shattered Shaoqun's heart on the spot. At the foot of the cliff, the Dragon's Gate's doyens were gathering the remnant disciples on the island to deal with the Dragon's Gate's funeral matters. Aside from being mentally fatigued, these people recovered rather quickly after they were freed from their restraint. Suddenly, Shaoqun felt a strong aura sweep through Heavenly Star Island. Then, that person quickly flew towards him. This person was very strong. Aside from Shaoqun, no one else discovered it. Shaoqun opened his eyes and happened to see the Myriad Law Fiend Masterland in front of him. When Shaoqun saw the other party, he felt somewhat shocked. In Shaoqun's impression, this old man did not care about many things in the outside world. In the Myriad Fiend Island, even his descendants found it extremely difficult to meet this old man. Back then, when Shaoqun went to the Myriad Fiend Island to meet this old man, many of the Myriad Fiend Island's disciples envied him. "Senior, why are you here?" Shaoqun asked as he stood up and stopped his cultivation, giving up on treating his injuries for now. "Seeking the Tao." The Myriad Law Fiend Master was very straightforward, not hiding anything. With just these two simple words, Shaoqun already knew the Myriad Law Fiend Master's purpose. He probably already knew about the battle in the Blood-clad sect. That's right. This junior has indeed grasped a complete Saber Tao. However, this is just the first step. I still have a long way to go. Shao Chen answered honestly, not hiding anything. The Myriad Law Fiend Master's face lit up in joy. Then, he revealed an excited expression. You really grasped Great Tao Energy? Shao Chen nodded. With a thought, Great Tao Energy spread out, forming a faint Tao disk behind him that gave off a bright light. Then, the Tao disk condensed into a point and continuously elongated. The Tao might on Shao Chen's body grew as well. Boom! The Myriad Law Fiend Master slowly felt some pressure. He had no choice but to drive his aura to block. Enough. You are already injured. There is no need to continue demonstrating. The ancients did not lie to me. A great Tao truly exists in the world. However, this old man is stupid. I'm afraid that I will not be able to comprehend it in this lifetime. The Myriad Law Fiend Master indicated for Shao Chen to stop. Then, he said somewhat disappointedly. At his age, he had not comprehended a Tao yet. He basically had no fate with the Tao. His thoughts were already fixed. It would be very difficult to change. If it were 1,000 years ago, he would have gotten Shao Chen to demonstrate and explain to the Myriad Law Fiend Master. Given his comprehension ability, he would have had a 50% chance of grasping Great Tao Energy. Following that, the Myriad Law Fiend Master asked Shao Chen about the mysteries of the Tao and how it worked. Shao Chen was not stingy, telling the Myriad Law Fiend Master everything he could. No matter what, the Myriad Law Fiend Master had helped him during his great tribulation of wind and fire. He owed him a great debt, so what he said was nothing. After a long time, the Myriad Law Fiend Master asked, "Do you blame me for not making a move when the Dragon's Gate was destroyed?" Shao Chen shook his head. "No. Senior, you are not obligated to defend the Dragon's Gate. You cannot stand on the moral high ground and criticize others. It's good that you can think that way. It's not that I don't want to help. Let me tell you the truth. The people who can help you are all delayed by all kinds of seemingly coincidental things." The Myriad Law Fiend Master smiled and said, however, after that, the blood-clad sex people did not dare to go overboard. When the Dragon's Gate's elders were captured, they did not suffer any abuse. Shao Chen was startled. His thoughts moved like lightning. After thinking for a while, he said, "Someone wants to test me?" "That's right. I'm sure you've guessed who it is. However, right now, he should be regretting his underestimation of your strength." The Myriad Law Fiend Master continued, "Your appearance spoiled his plans. The heavenly starry ocean will probably descend into chaos in advance. Given that person's means, it is fine if he does not make a move. However, once he does, the entire heavenly starry ocean will suffer a calamity." Of course, the answer to who that person was went without saying. Shao Chen asked doubtfully, "Why don't the three of you primes work together to make a move? Could it be that the three primes are not sufficient to defeat him?" Of course, the three primes can defeat him. However, because they cannot figure him out, they do not dare to make a move. No one can bear the consequences of falling out with him. They can only keep their guard up and make their own preparations. The Myriad Law Fiend Master sighed softly. The situation is even more complicated than you imagine. Attacking the Dragon's Gate is just a prelude. Cultivate properly and make use of this rare period of peace to raise your strength further. The Great Tribulation is approaching. A storm will arrive soon, a storm that will destroy the world. Chapter 1474. Senior, aren't you being too serious? Seeing the Myriad Law Fiend Master's stern appearance, Shao Chen felt that he had gone overboard. The Myriad Law Fiend Master shook his head and said, "I am absolutely not joking. I have lived for so many years. I have experienced and know much more than you do. A long time ago, it wasn't particularly difficult to leave this land of exile. Most of the vanished existences in history left. However, now, the Kunlun Road is becoming more and more like a dead end, practically a dead end. In the past, the Thunder King was still around. At the very least, he could handle everything. Now that the Thunder King is not around, no one is willing to submit to anyone else. The Kunlun realm is in a state of disunity, unable to withstand a great calamity. Right now, you are the only hope of replacing the Thunder King. You are a variable, the bearer of luck of the Kunlun realm. After saying that, the Myriad Law Fiend Master left behind a bottle of the Fiend race's holy medicine for treating injuries before leaving quietly. Xiao Chen entered deep thought. He felt a strange pressure. This Kunlun realm was no longer calm. However, it was still calm in the eyes of the Myriad Law Fiend Master. A true storm would be much more horrifying than this. Destroying the world. If I lose, will everyone in the Kunlun realm die? With this thought, Xiao Chen felt his hair stand on end. He really did not want to see this familiar world destroyed. Xiao Chen, don't overthink. Just do your best. It is not fair to place the pressure of the entire world on you. Ao Jiao, who was in the lunar shadow saber, consoled Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen said helplessly, "If I were really the bearer of luck and inherited the heavenly Tao's luck, then it would not be as simple as doing my best." Right now, Xiao Chen grasped great Tao energy and the supreme magic skill, the divine lightning eye. His potential was limitless. Surpassing Prime was originally an unreachable goal. Now, he was not far from it. Luck could not be given to one for free. The heavenly Tao had always been fair. It was a form of self-protection. Although it did not have life or intelligence, it did not want the Kunlun realm to be destroyed. If he failed to do so, his luck would probably turn into misfortune, and many inauspicious things would happen. However, Ao Jiao said a lot. Regardless of whether she believed in fate or not, there were many things that she just had to do her best. If it still didn't work, then there was no other way. People didn't need to trouble themselves. After taking the recuperation medicine left behind by the Myriad Law Fiend Master, Xiao Chen started to recover quickly. The wound on his chest healed at a visible rate. It looked like the medicinal pill that the Myriad Law Fiend Master gave him was a trump card. Presumably, after listening to Xiao Chen talk about so many cultivation methods, the other party would feel embarrassed not to express his gratitude. After recovering from his injuries, just as Xiao Chen was about to go into seclusion, an unexpected guest arrived. The one who came was the cyclic astral lord, one of the 3 primes of the heavenly starry ocean. He was also the person who had a 100-year agreement with Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen wasn't surprised by this person's arrival, but he didn't expect him to arrive so quickly. Little brother Xiao Chen, congratulations to little brother Xiao Chen for killing Ao Lang with one saber strike. No one under Prime can defeat you. After comprehending great Tao energy, it will be easy for you to surpass Prime in the future. The cyclic astral lord's handsome face showed a spring breeze-like smile, making one feel very comfortable. However, Xiao Chen knew who the other party was. He replied indifferently, "The cyclic astral lord is too serious. I don't dare to say that I surpass Prime. I'm not here for anything else. I just want to tell you to hurry up and cultivate. You don't have much time left. Otherwise, if you can't fulfill the agreement, you will really die." The cyclic astral lord still had a wide smile on his face. However, his words were not polite at all. The oath stone is no joke. If you fail to fulfill the oath you made, the consequences will definitely come true. Xiao Chen loathed this person from the bottom of his heart. He said coldly, "Thank you for your auspicious words. Don't worry. I will do it. It's good that you remember. Don't disappoint me." The cyclic astral lord did as he said. After reminding Xiao Chen, he laughed and left. After the cyclic astral lord left, the bright moon empress and Jiang Tian, whom Xiao Chen had not seen for a long time, appeared together. Furthermore, they were all major characters. The 3 primes of the heavenly starry ocean were all here. Like the Myriad Law Fiend Master, these 2 came for the same purpose, to ask about the Tao. Xiao Chen did not find this troublesome. He repeated what he had said to the myriad law fiend master. After the two heard it, they both gained a lot of comprehensions. This was especially so for the bright moon empress. Her pretty eyes seemed to flicker with starlight. Although he couldn't comprehend the Tao, it would more or less be beneficial to his cultivation. Shao Chen, it looks like you are different from the Qing emperor back then. I had too deep a prejudice against you in the past. Please don't take it to heart. Shao Chen wondered if he had heard wrong. The bright moon empress actually apologized to him. He smiled bitterly to himself. Indeed, in the end, strength reigns supreme in this world. Even a noble and cold existence like the bright moon empress would still show respect to him after he was strong enough. Palace Master is too polite. I have never harbored any hatred for the lunar palace. This was the truth, not a lie. Shao Chen did not feel any hatred for the lunar palace. Of course, he did not have a good impression of it, either. After the two left, a large number of cultivators arrived. They were either the holy masters of holy lands or the clan heads of ancient noble clans. These were all major characters of the heavenly starry ocean, people who were rarely seen. However, today, they all rushed to the rubble of the Dragon's Gate. In the end, Shao Chen had no choice but to close the doors and reject all guests, getting Imochen to spread the word. 3 months later, when the Dragon's Gate was rebuilt, he would invite everyone to a banquet. Otherwise, Shao Chen would not even need to cultivate after receiving so many people endlessly. The arrival of the 3 primes made Shao Chen understand that time was of the essence. He needed to cultivate quickly and improve his strength. Then, he would make a trip to the Blue Dragon Palace. At this moment, the trip to the Blue Dragon Palace was naturally urgent. The trip to the Blue Dragon Palace was very important. Shao Chen could not afford to make any mistake. He needed to be strong enough to face a prime before he could go. Otherwise, he would be at the mercy of others. Although the 3 primes said that Shao Chen would soon surpass prime, Shao Chen was not lost. However, Shao Chen did not lose himself. Right now, the gap between him and a prime was still rather large. At the very most, he would only have some trump cards that could slightly threaten a supremacy. 5 years ago, Shao Chen had seen a prime make a move during his great tribulation of wind and fire. He knew how horrifying a prime's strength was. Every single existence that could become a supreme being was definitely not an ordinary person. They were all incredibly powerful. Naturally, the first thing Shao Chen needed to do was to recover his primordial energy. Then, he would continue to refine it until he could no longer cultivate. After searching through the universe ring, Shao Chen took out all the primordial pills he had. There was a total of 2,000. This was a large number. If Shao Chen absorbed and refined all of them, it would be sufficient to completely recover his primordial energy or even become even denser. While Shao Chen cultivated, the entire heavenly starry ocean became much more peaceful, as the myriad law fiend master expected. It was like a sign before a storm. After the destruction of the blood-clad sect, the treasure master seemed to have stopped all his plans and chose to hide, vanishing from everyone's sight. The deity Dao Yunyan's side in the Kunlun realm also quieted down, not taking any action. It was like they were waiting for an opportunity. Emperor Forsaken, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor, and the heaven-punishing corpse god rarely showed themselves. The deity Dao Yunyan's actions surpassed many people's expectations. Originally, several people thought that the deity Dao Yunyan would seek trouble for the Blue Dragon King, Shao Chen. Who could have imagined that the deity Dao Yunyan would remain so calm, not reacting at all? However, these peaceful days would be broken one day. The great battle triggered by the Blue Dragon Palace far surpassed Shao Chen's expectations.